Chapter 140, Don't You Know the Rules? Meng Hao approached the mansion and knocked 3 times on the door. It opened inwardly without a sound. Inside, everything was pitch black, some kind of black shield in place. Meng Hao could see magical ripples on its surface, but nothing that indicated an attack. It simply controlled which cultivators could enter. Observing it and thinking back to those who had arrived before him, he quickly understood. This prevents anyone but Foundation establishment cultivators from entering. His face covered by the bamboo hat, he strode into the shield. Within the space of a few breaths, a soft glow appeared, shining into his eyes. He now stood outside of what appeared to be the palace of a mortal prince. The palace was grand and imposing, like an enormous creature lying prone on the earth. It had a solemn air. Outside stood an old man in a Taoist robe with a placid expression. His cultivation base was late Foundation establishment. When he saw Meng Hao, he approached, eyes shining. He looked Meng Hao over. Please produce your invitation slip, fellow Taoist. A sect identification medallion will do if you have none. Meng Hao's eyes flickered beneath his hat. Without a word, he waved his hand and a medallion flew to the old man's hand. He looked at it, and respect appeared in his eyes. He handed it back with 2 hands. So you're from the Violet. Meng Hao coughed, and the old man stopped. Without another word, he stepped back with a slight bow, allowing Meng Hao to continue. Meng Hao took the medallion back and strode past the old man into the palace. The medallion was the same one he had taken from Ding Xin. This was his second time going under an assumed name, and he was a bit more used to it this time. 1. If you forgot the first time Meng Hao impersonated Ding Xin, you can read about it in Chapter 69, Young Lord Ding. He knew that this place would be a jumble of dragons and fish, quite chaotic. If they were really strictly checking the identities of the participants, then how could it be called a secret meeting? Having observed the outside for some time to analyze the situation, he now felt calm and unhurried. Upon entering, he saw ornamental rock displays and streams arched by dark green wooden bridges. Not far away was a pavilion surrounded by musicians playing stringed instruments. The sound was remarkable. 7 people sat within the pavilion, maintaining distance from one another, sizing each other up silently. When Meng Hao entered, their gazes all came to rest on him. 3 of the 7 people wore masks. One of them was Lu Tao, who was sitting there frowning. His gaze passed over Meng Hao briefly. 2 others had not covered their faces. One was a woman who looked like a lady and appeared to be about 30 years old. She wore splendid garments and was quite good-looking. She had an alluring look in her eyes that exuded charm. She looked at Meng Hao for a moment, then smiled and nodded. Last was a middle-aged man wearing a long, yellow robe. A lonely expression covered his face, and he held a flagon of alcohol in hand, which he constantly drank from. He gave Meng Hao a quick glance with eyes heavy from alcohol. The features of the 4 others present were all concealed by masks. It wasn't even possible to tell if they were men or women. Without batting an eyelid, Meng Hao entered the pavilion and selected a table to sit at. Looking around, he saw that there were only 9 tables within the pavilion. Including his, 8 of them were now occupied. Obviously, the final table was reserved for the host, and not any other cultivator. After some time passed, a large man entered the palace from outside. He was at the mid-Foundation establishment stage. He was big and tall, so much so that it would have been useless for him to try to conceal his identity. He strode into the pavilion, cold and haughty. As soon as he entered, he stopped in his tracks, his brow furrowed as he looked around. "This isn't my first secret meeting," he said coolly. "Today I came with an invitation, yet there's no place for me. Which of you doesn't understand the rules?" He smacked his bag of holding, and a blue jade slip appeared with a single character inscribed, "Secret." The jade slip glowed softly. With a smile, the young lady lifted her delicate hand to reveal her own jade slip, which she placed on the table in front of her. Next, Lu Tao followed suit, along with some of the others. Soon, only Meng Hao and one of the other disguised cultivators had not produced a jade slip. One of the other 2 was emanating the power of the late Foundation establishment stage. This person sat there calmly, completely ignoring the large man. Not daring to say anything, the large man's eyes came to rest on Meng Hao and the other person. Both of them were only at the early Foundation establishment stage. The large man's eyes glittered coldly. "You 2, if you can't show me a jade slip, then you can just get the hell out of here. Give me a seat. If you don't, then you won't be leaving this place alive." His voice was filled with killing intent, which transformed into a coldness that filled the area. The rest of the people in the pavilion continued to look on with various expressions. None of them seemed willing to interfere. Apparently, they had no qualms whatsoever about observing a magical battle to the death. Meng Hao said nothing, and neither did the other disguised person. Everything was quiet within the pavilion. The large man surnamed Su snorted, and then strode, not toward Meng Hao, but to the other person who happened to be a bit closer to where he stood. His eyes shining brightly, he was about to raise his right hand when suddenly a light cough could be heard. It echoed throughout the pavilion, and as it did, everyone inside, including the hulking Su, turned their heads. An old man in a long yellow robe entered. His face was placid, his body seeming both illusory and real. He didn't seem to move quickly, yet within 3 or 4 steps was inside the pavilion. Salutations, fellow Taoist Xianxia. Greetings, fellow Taoist Xianxia. The instant the old man appeared, everyone with the exception of Meng Hao instantly stood up. Meng Hao's expression flickered, and then he too stood and clasped hands in salute to the old man. "There's no need to be so formal," said the old man coolly. "All of you are heroes of the current generation in the southern domain. I'm merely here to host this secret meeting. Please proceed." He sat down at the 9th table and looked at the assembled people, his eyes bright and shining. Finally, they came to rest on the large fellow surnamed Su. Being gazed upon by the old man caused him to lower his head respectfully. Meng Hao did the same. This old man was a foundation establishment cultivator, but was clearly beyond the late foundation establishment stage. He was halfway to entering core formation, so he would be classified as a pseudo-core cultivator. A person like this in the state of Zhao would have a position higher than Grand Elder. His presence made Meng Hao a little bit nervous, but also led to some guesses about the whole thing. "Fellow Taoist Xianxia," said the hulking Su nervously. Bracing himself, he said, "I invite you to take charge of justice. I bear an invitation, and yet someone here has stolen my position." He clasped hands and gave a deep, respectful bow. "Who stole your position?" asked the old man lightly. His gaze was like lightning as it casually fell onto Meng Hao. "This person," cried the hulking Su, raising his hand and pointing at the other disguised cultivator. That cultivator gave a cold harumph. From the clear ring of the voice, it was obviously a woman. "That is my personal guest," said the old man, speaking neither fast nor slow, as if the affairs of these cultivators was beneath his interest. "She could not have stolen your position." Hearing this, the hulking Su gaped for a moment, but then his gaze swept over to Meng Hao. A cold light appeared in his eyes. Since one of the 2 people was invited, that left only one without a Jade slip. This must be the person who stole his seat. Everyone was now looking at Meng Hao, even the woman who had just humphed coldly. She looked over at Meng Hao with icy eyes. Beneath his wide bamboo hat, Meng Hao's expression was the same as always. "Anyone who comes to this place has the qualifications to attend the meeting," said the old man placidly. "However, if you do not have an invitation slip, then you must wait outside the pavilion. When the time comes to conduct business, you may only place bids if everyone inside the pavilion has renounced claim." "So, it was you who stole my place," said Su. "You don't know the difference between life and death. There's no need to get up. If I don't tear you to pieces today, then I'll become a laughingstock." Su had an irritable personality to begin with. Having his seat taken away in front of everyone had long since stoked his killing intent. His body flashed as the power of the mid-foundation establishment stage exploded out of him. He charged directly toward Meng Hao. No one moved to interfere. Even the old man just watched coolly. When he was 3 meters away, he lifted his hand, causing a massive magical palm to descend toward Meng Hao. Meng Hao sat still. He simply lifted his left hand and waved a finger toward him. When he waved his finger, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within the entire palace was thrown into chaos. At the same time, the hulking man's expression changed. He suddenly felt as if he had lost control of his cultivation base and was now completely suppressed. This caused the pupils of the surrounding cultivators to constrict, including Old Man Xianxia. Meng Hao's right hand waved, and instantly, a roaring, 300-meter-long flame dragon appeared. Su screamed as it shot down into his body. His entire body shook violently. A look of disbelief and shock covered his face, and then despair. His skin burst into flame. A great wind buffeted him, slamming him into the ground. In the blink of an eye, his stalwart frame was reduced to bits of ash that drifted in the air. The only thing left was a bag of holding. It flew up and into Meng Hao's hand. He patted it lightly, then produced a jade slip upon which was inscribed the character "Secret." He placed it on the table. "Here is my invitation slip," he said. The others couldn't see his expression, as it was hidden by the bamboo hat. They could only hear his raspy voice coming out from underneath it. Chapter 141. The Cosmetic Cultivation Pill appears again 1. If you forgot about the Cosmetic Cultivation Pill, you can read Chapter 12. Hello, Elder Sister Sue, and Chapter 37. Water and Ink in the Evening. The pavilion was silent. Sue's death was quick and clean, which caused Lu Tao's eyes to narrow. Fear filled his heart as he looked at Meng Hao, who sat there looking dignified. The well-dressed lady gave Meng Hao a penetrating look, realizing this was not a person to provoke. The middle-aged man with the flagon stopped drinking, his eyes narrowed with a sharp look. The disguised late Foundation establishment cultivator slowly lifted his head to study Meng Hao's cultivation base. The disguised woman glanced at Meng Hao, then looked away. "If there are no further disturbances, we can begin," said Old Man Xianxia. He looked at Meng Hao with a friendly expression. "All of you made contact with the Secret Trade Alliance in the state of Clear Skies. If you conduct business here, I serve as witness. You may proceed without reservations. Should problems arise, the Secret Trade Alliance takes responsibility. Now, I invite you all to begin." He spoke as one of equal standing. Meng Hao's actions had not just frightened the others. This old man was somewhat in awe of him as well. When he finished speaking, he flicked his sleeve, and a copper furnace inlaid with 8 golden dragons flew out. It landed directly in the center of the pavilion. "Fellow Taoists," said Lu Tao, clasping hands in salute to the others, "please allow me to go first this time." He waved his right hand and a jade slip appeared, which then flew into the copper furnace that Old Man Xianxia had just placed in the middle of them all. "This is a list of all the items I'm willing to trade today. There's also a portrait inside. Fellow Taoists, if any of you see this person in the coming days, please send me a message with the information. I will repay you with a chunk of stone from the Lightning Fringe Mountains." He said nothing more. After this, the well-dressed, beautiful lady gave a slight smile and produced a jade slip. Without a word, she sent it into the copper furnace. The items she required as well as could offer for trade were all listed in the jade slip. Anyone who was interested would contact her. This secret meeting was really just a small-scale hosted trade session. After all, most of the participants were not locals and needed to be prudent when dealing with strangers, especially in business. Thus, the Secret Trade Alliance came to be. They would organize similar meetings throughout the southern domain, all presided over by a third party who could bear witness. Soon it was Meng Hao's turn. He thought for a moment, unsure what was happening, but pulled out a jade slip. After branding it with spiritual sense, he tossed it into the furnace. He had left a single message. What was the Black Civ sect up to, and how dangerous was their invitation? It didn't take long for the 8 participants to place their jade slips into the furnace. Old Man Xianxia lifted his right hand and flashed an incantation gesture toward the furnace. A droning sound arose, and within the furnace, an intangible flame came into being. The jade slips inside began to melt, and as they did, the 8 golden dragons on the surface of the copper furnace began to squirm as if they were alive. Mist poured out from them, instantly beginning to envelop everyone present. Meng Hao's heart skipped. Though he didn't resist, he maintained utmost vigilance. After the mist covered him, everything grew quiet. Ahead, he saw 8 glowing globes of light. He had been separated into his own area. Information poured into his mind. Lists of medicinal pills, magical items, and miscellaneous goods, along with descriptions of desired items. Meng Hao's eyes glittered. He pulled back his spiritual sense and touched one glowing light. The information from his own jade slip appeared in his mind. He understood now. After examining it, his attention was drawn to the last glowing ball. Inside was a portrait. When he saw it, Meng Hao laughed coldly to himself. The portrait in the jade slip was of himself. Furthermore, the desired item was a thunderclap leaf. So, in this so-called secret meeting, you can ask for anything you need. This method is pretty good. You can confidently ask or offer things that you normally couldn't. If you strike a deal with someone, you won't know who it was you were dealing with. It seems there are 2 others who, like myself, want information about the Black Civ sect. He sat there cross-legged, waiting, sure that someone would contact him eventually. As he waited, he sent his spiritual sense out to examine some of the other glowing lights. Suddenly, a white light appeared out of nowhere within the mist. Meng Hao's eyes narrowed. He touched it, and a message appeared in his head. "I don't know very much about matters regarding the Black Civ sect, only a smattering, but what I do know is accurate. For my news, I require 500,000 spirit stones." Meng Hao frowned. Buying information was risky, determining truth from falsehood would be difficult. Just then another white light appeared. Meng Hao seized it, and another message entered his mind. Several rumors float regarding the Black Civ sect. I have inner sect news. Whether it's true, you must decide. This costs 700,000 spirit stones. First time trading like this, Meng Hao thought. I lack experience and the price is steep. I don't have many spirit stones now. Ignoring the messages, he continued to examine some of the other glowing lights. He found that many of the lights had been updated with more details or had prices increased or reduced. Suddenly, the copper mirror in his Cosmos bag grew hot. A moment later, the heat vanished. Meng Hao stared in shock. He pulled out the mirror and examined it closely. He found nothing different. Lost in thought, he placed it back and continued examining items for sale. Soon, his eyes began to shine as he gazed at one of the glowing lights. Of the multiple items inside, one stuck out to him. Classic of Time. This item stood out because its name was dim within the glowing light. It hadn't been there before but had just appeared. Meng Hao realized it was cloaked by a mysterious technique, visible only to those with late Foundation establishment spiritual sense. The Classic of Time has a total of 3 volumes. Together, they describe time refinement, which can in turn produce the magical time sword. I'm making the first volume available here. If you're interested, please contact me. Meng Hao's eyes narrowed and brightened. He ignored the Foundation establishment pill requests and focused on the Classic of Time introduction. And time is then produced. Lives are nothing. The sword's magic produces varying results. 3 swords yield powerful magic, 9 a more consummate magic, 18 can slay time. Mystical trees forge the time sword. Their ancientness contains time's vicissitudes. They include the spring and autumn tree, the missing breath tree, and the best of all, the spiritualization tree. If none are available, the 1,000 times tree can also be used. Meng Hao's eyes flashed. He retracted his spiritual sense and took a deep breath. He was very interested in this time sword. He already had a spring and autumn tree. Meng Hao lifted his hand toward the glowing light. A white glow shot out and circled his hand. He branded a message onto it and sent it toward the light. It vanished. The white glow soon flew back to him. As he touched it, text appeared in his mind. Since you could see the Classic of Time information, you have the required cultivation base. However, I only have 1 volume. Acquiring the other 2 requires us to work together. 1 more person here is willing. If you join us, our chances will increase. If you participate in the Black Civ sect's activity here, you must swear a Tao oath not to reveal our information to anyone, including your sect. Inscribe your Tao oath on a jade slip and send it. Your share will be guaranteed. Meng Hao's eyes shined with determination. He lifted a jade slip, placed it between his eyebrows, then sent it into the white light. The jade slip vanished with the light. Time passed. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as several white glowing lights appeared. Scanning them with spiritual sense, he found the message he awaited. A year ago, the Black Civ sect found a secret map depicting a path to an ancient blessed land. They've entered multiple times but reached a standstill at a precipice. Only Foundation establishment cultivators can pass. Entrants must meet Black Civ demands. The more objects brought back, the more Civ Earth pills awarded. Our meeting place is where the sun and moon shadows intersect in this ancient savage land. That's approximately 10 days from now. Quickly make your way to the Black Civ sect and join the rogue Foundation establishment cultivators they're gathering. Meng Hao frowned as the white light disappeared. The state of clear skies has scattered information, impossible to verify as true or false, but most involves ancient battlegrounds or blessed lands. Intelligent people have investigated and reached similar conclusions. The state belongs to the Black Civ sect. The chaos within has everything to do with them. Still, that Civ Earth pill would help me. Meng Hao had learned much about the Black Civ sect from this meeting, but the more he learned, the more suspicious he became. I must go, he decided. His spiritual sense swept the remaining lights, then suddenly constricted. Despite sitting cross-legged, a strong spirit surged from him as he stared at the light containing the Time Classic information. A new item had just been listed, a medicinal pill. Cosmetic cultivation pill. A common, inexpensive pill, ordinarily unremarkable. But to Meng Hao, it held memories from 6 or 7 years ago, memories of a beautiful moonlit scene. I never would have guessed to find a cosmetic cultivation pill here, said Meng Hao with a sigh. He paid the price, and soon a glowing white light carried it to him. The pill landed in his hand, and his entire body shook with surprise. This chapter was sponsored by AM. Nicholas Abram and Abdolkrim Wahasna. Chapter 142, Black Civ Sect. As Meng Hao's body trembled in the mist, his eyes glowed powerfully. His breathing grew rapid, his cultivation base rotating rapidly, causing the mist to seethe. But Meng Hao noticed none of this. He stared at the cosmetic cultivation pill and what was etched on its side, a mountain. The mountain had been etched by hand, not magic. The pill was ordinary, but the etching was sentimental. Only those outside the Reliance sect wouldn't recognize this mountain. It was the Reliance sect's East Mountain. The mountain's shape had been branded into Meng Hao's mind. He recognized it immediately. Would place this image on a cosmetic cultivation pill in the state of clear skies. A clear image appeared in Meng Hao's mind. A beautiful, cold woman in white clothing. She had brought Meng Hao into the cultivation world. Under the moon, she had glanced back at him. Su Qing. Elder Sister Su. Meng Hao couldn't prove this was the pill he had given her as a gift, but his intuition told him it was. He held up the pill, slowly closing his fist. He sat quietly. Beneath the wide bamboo hat, a storm brewed on his face. If she never used this and brought it to the Black Civ sect, why is it here now? What happened to her? This picture of the East Mountain, does she miss the Reliance sect or a person? Why this image? Did she give the pill away or sell it? The person I was just trading with wasn't her. He loosened his grip and studied the etching again. His heart suddenly filled with desire to see Elder Sister Su. The answers lay deep within. Elder Sister Su. A sharp look glowed in his eyes. This pill told him if she didn't sell or give it away, there was only one other possibility. Pain stabbed his heart and his eyesight grew blurry. He saw her image from years ago, so long ago. He slowly placed the cosmetic cultivation pill into his cosmos bag. The Black Civ sect in the classic of time. Meng Hao slowly lifted his head, staring at the glowing lights. This was not a place where he could attack. Nothing was worth the risk. He didn't want to alert his enemy. He thought, and then determination filled his eyes. His decision was made. He would go to the Black Civ sect. Meng Hao had no mood to continue the secret meeting. He kept thinking of Elder Sister Su from years past. When it finally ended, he sighed lightly. The mist dissipated. Old man Qingshan nodded to the group, waved his hand, and turned to leave. Those remaining didn't linger. One by one, they vanished, randomly teleported away. Such methods made the secret trade alliance increasingly popular. When Meng Hao reappeared, it was outside another mansion's gate in the city. This was halfway across the city from where he'd followed Lu Tao. Meng Hao knew the palace wasn't within the city itself, just an entranceway. He walked down the moonlit street, looking up at the sky. His long shadow stretched across the ground, filled with bleakness. The moon was the same, but the location was different. It seemed years had passed since yesterday. Looking back, he had no place to call home. He sighed and walked on. He walked until the sun rose, then left the city of cultivators. Finally, his body transformed into a prismatic beam, shooting through the state of clear skies toward the Black Civ sect. Several days later, the Black Civ sect lay in the east of the state of clear skies, amid the 100,000 mountains. Its main gate was vast and mighty, striking awe into any cultivator who beheld it. The 100,000 mountains foiled 99 mountains within. Above them floated a massive inverted mountain, almost a continent. Willows draped from its underside, some dozens of meters long, others hundreds. Clouds curled around this land, giving it a celestial feeling. Richly ornamented buildings, pagodas, and temples covered it. Below, the 99 mountains were connected by colorful arching bridges. It was beautiful. Gurgling water dripped from the floating mountains' ragged rocks, making this sect indescribably beautiful. Faint bells filled the air, creating serene quiet. The highest peak seemed to stretch to the heavens. There for generations stood an enormous incense burner. 3 massive burning joss sticks rose within it, seemingly inextinguishable. Their fragrance would last through eternity. Smoke rose skyward, transformed by wind into willow-like wisps, then dispersed. These were the lands of the Black Civ sect. The Black Civ sect could claim the surrounding 100,000 mountains. As one of the 5 great sects of the southern domain, its Tao reserves were profound, its sect techniques tens of thousands of years old. The spiritual energy here was thick. In fact, the 100,000 mountains had far thicker spiritual energy than any spirit mountains in the state of Zhao. Any single mountain here had thicker spiritual energy than the valley where Meng Hao reached foundation establishment. Within the 1,000 mountains, spiritual energy was so thick that even mortals had increased longevity. From birth, They breathed it in and didn't need to practice cultivation to extend their lifespans. Within the 100 mountains, it was even more remarkable. A young man stood outside the 100,000 mountains in a black robe, his face haughty and proud. "The 100 mountains of the Black Civ sect," he said coolly, "are where only qualified inner sect members practice. In fact, the 1,000 mountains far surpass many so-called spirit mountains in the world." Around him stood 5 cultivators, all gazing at the Black Civ sect. Each wore different clothing, obviously from different areas. One wore a scholar's robe. His skin was dark, but he had scholarly and refined bearing. It was Meng Hao. "The 10,000 mountains are for guests. My advice is not to tread into mountains other than yours," he said, smiling. "Many fierce beasts are sealed here. Certain mountains are reserved and guarded by inner sect disciples. Entering them could cost your life." He smiled as his gaze passed over them. "Fellow Taoists, you answered the Black Civ sect's call. You are now guests of the sect. You will stay in the 10,000 mountains, one person per mountain. Everything for cultivation practice is prepared. A disciple from Pill Mountain will deliver a Civ Earth pill to your mountain. This is a welcoming gift. However, I Zheng must remind you, taking the pill, entering the mountain, and signing your fingerprint means you enter an agreement. If you break your promise or leave secretly, the Black Civ sect will punish you." With a smile, he cupped hands and bowed. Nearby, 5 Black Civ outer sect disciples waited to receive them. "Seems fair," said one of the 5 cultivators, an old man in a gray robe. The others voiced their agreement. Meng Hao said nothing as he gazed off into the endless mountains. "Very well then, fellow Taoists, you should not have very long to wait until we begin. Quite a few others have arrived already." The young man smiled and bowed again. Within Meng Hao's group of 5 was a middle-aged man with a sallow face. "How many fellow Taoists of the Foundation establishment stage have come already?" he asked suddenly. "Not counting you ladies and gentlemen, there are already 97. The young man surnamed Zhen nodded, then turned, transforming into a beam of light that shot off into the distance. "Fellow Taoists, please follow us. We will take you to your respective mountains." The group of 5 young disciples, who obviously were from the outer sect, cupped hands and saluted respectfully, then led the way. A young woman of about 26 or 27 led Meng Hao. Her cultivation was at the 7th level of qi condensation. She was pretty and intelligent. "Senior, please follow me," she said softly. Though Meng Hao's skin was dark, he was cultured and refined with a scholar's air, uncommon among cultivators. She glanced at him repeatedly. His clear eyes especially drew her, with a faint demonic glint within. An impressionable girl like her blushed when he gazed at her. "Senior," she said, lowering her head. "Lead on," he said with a slight smile. She reminded him of the Reliance sect of Su Qing. He looked at the endless mountains of the Black Civ sect, stubbornness glinting in his eyes. She led Meng Hao to a tall, emerald-green mountain. Atop it stood a residence and courtyard. Rattan vines wrapped everything, and a limestone path wound around the mountain. Wind blew, causing spiritual power to swirl. The entire scene would lift anyone's spirits. At the courtyard, Meng Hao produced a pearl head ornament from the bag of holding acquired from Su at the secret meeting. He gave it to the girl, then sent her off. She left, face flushed, glancing back repeatedly at Meng Hao. Her heart seemed quite abuzz. Soon the sky darkened. As night approached, everything was silent except for the chirping of insects drifting in from outside. Meng Hao sat cross-legged on the 2nd floor, meditating. Suddenly his eyes opened. At that moment the silence shattered with a blood-curdling scream. It sounded like someone in the throes of death. The screaming tore through the air. Chapter 143, Ghost in the Night. Meng Hao stood at the 2nd floor window. The moon hung in the sky. In the distance, he saw a mountain covered with rippling spells like fine gauze. The miserable cry came from that mountain. Multiple figures flew up from surrounding mountains to see. Soon several prismatic beams shot toward it. The spell ripples faded and everything returned to normal. All was quiet. Meng Hao frowned, his eyes flashing. The mountain was where the sallow-faced man had gone earlier that day. Seeing the figures fly toward it, Meng Hao was about to investigate when he paused suddenly. His face flickered as he looked at his Cosmos bag. He slapped it, and the demon sealing Jade flew out. It shimmered with mysterious glow. A strange feeling rose in Meng Hao's heart. Invisible qi seemed to prickle at it. He took out the jade piece left by the 8th demon sealer and placed it in his palm. The 8th demon sealer's archaic voice rang in his mind. "Some spirits in the cycle of reincarnation avoid burial. Their qi seems demonic yet not. They are above living creatures but infected with mortal variations. The chi is serene. Consumed by bones and spirit, they lead the way to the path. If you encounter such chi, you must seal it. Meng Hao decided not to leave. He stood at the window, casting his spiritual sense toward where the scream came from. The first thing he heard was quarreling. This is the sixth fellow Taoist dead. If the Black Civ sect doesn't explain now, we will leave. Right, we answered your call for a Civ Earth pill. Deaths in battle would be fine, but people are dying miserable deaths at night. You seal the area and forbid investigation. Very strange. Of course we have questions. About 10 cultivators stood near the mountain, glaring at the Black Civ disciples blocking their investigation. In the distance, many cultivators had flown from their mountains and watched. They said nothing, but all exuded cultivation power. Great pressure rose, becoming voiceless revolt. The disciples' faces turned unsightly. A gravelly voice suddenly sounded. The sect will explain within 3 days. An old man in a wide Taoist robe appeared. The pressure from his body made the cultivators' faces change. All disciples bowed. Greetings, Elder Chen. The old man strode forward, standing at the mountain's foot. Yet the Foundation establishment cultivators floating above were silent, many offering respectful bows. They obviously knew who he was. Meng Hao stood at the window, expression unchanged, though a slight frown appeared. The old man was a Black Civ elder with core formation cultivation, not Foundation establishment. His gaze swept the gathering. When he spoke, his voice was soft yet filled the minds of all. I appreciate your arrival at the Black Civ sect. Regarding the recent killings, I am furious. Within 3 days, I will slay the killer myself. With Elder Chen present, we are at ease. Thank you, Senior, for justice. The Foundation cultivators bowed and returned to their mountains. An elder had appeared. They couldn't argue further. Soon, everything was quiet again. Elder Chen departed, as did most of the Black Civ sect disciples. The mountain from which the scream had sounded out was also quiet. No one was willing to make further attempts to go investigate. Meng Hao returned to sit cross-legged and meditate. The 8th demon sealer's words echoed in his mind. Something strange is happening in the Black Civ sect. Meng Hao's eyes opened with intense glow. The prickly chi seemed to grow thicker. He took out the blood immortal legacy mask and sent his spiritual sense inside. The Li clan patriarch, enveloped by Meng Hao's blood mist, seemed weakening lately. He no longer cried out like before. He didn't have the strength. What do you know about the Black Civ sect? Meng Hao asked through spiritual sense. The old man's blood-spirit identity had always seemed strange, especially regarding Li Dai. I know dog farts, you little son of a b \*tch, the old man snarled. If you had any skill. Before he could finish, Meng Hao calmly cut his finger and surrounded the old man in more blood mist. A miserable cry sounded, then Meng Hao retracted his spiritual sense. He put away the mask, asking no more. Beneath the Black Civ sect's 10,000 mountains lay an enormous network of limestone caves like a giant labyrinth. Deep within stood a tall platform adorned with burning torches, their dancing light creating flickering shadows. 3 old cultivators sat cross-legged atop it. Their bodies were withered, nearly looking dead. Strong death chi swirled around them, yet their eyes were open, gleaming with ancient, netherworldly light. Their figures seemed to twist and warp, existing between physical and corporeal, not completely within the world. A hide lay in their center, made from wild beast skin, its edges tattered, its surface bearing some sort of map. The hide map slowly wriggled. Standing atop it was the phantom image of a man, letting out a soundless scream. A ghost of a sallow middle-aged man, one of the 5 who had arrived with Meng Hao. His body blurred, then vanished. The hide's edges slowly expanded, becoming glossier, an incredibly strange scene. Time passed. One old person spoke in a hoarse, scraping voice. Tomorrow moonlight it will consume another. Then we begin. We must succeed this time, no matter what. We must acquire that legendary item, not just for us but for the patriarchs. Then we awaken. We will leave this darkness, this empty place with no land to tread. Still not enough Foundation establishment pups. We spread the news wide, but sects and clans aren't easily fooled. HMPH. Can't be helped. These Foundation establishment pups are just part of the whole. With everything prepared, we will succeed this time. Their voices slowly faded. Only the wriggling hide remained, like an object of worship. The night passed quietly. Dawn broke. Meng Hao opened his eyes from meditation. Outside, a beam of multicolored light approached. It became a woman in a black gown, tall and slender with fair skin and beautiful hair draping her shoulders. She slowed as she approached Meng Hao's residence. Disciple Hanbei 1. Hanbei's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Hanbei. Han is a common surname. Bei means shell. Of Black Sieve sect Pill Mountain has been dispatched to deliver you a Sieve Earth Pill, she said. Fellow Taoist, can you please come out? Her voice was intelligent, her smile beautiful as a flower in bloom. Her presence seemed to brighten everything. Her eyes were alluring, her smile white and lovely. She wore a long, emerald green gown trimmed with violet embroidery. Overall, she had an otherworldly look. Meng Hao emerged, and they sat at a table. She looked at him, her smile unchanging though her eyes grew brighter. Whether conscious or not was unclear. Fellow Taoist, may I ask your honored name? She asked with a slight smile. Her voice was pleasant as a lark's call, a pleasure to hear. Meng Hao, he replied coolly, making no attempt to conceal his identity. Her cultivation base was extraordinary, early foundation establishment stage. Meng? Hanbei looked shocked for a moment, studying his face, then laughed. So you are fellow Taoist Meng. This is a contract. Please mark it with your thumbprint, then I'll give you the Sieve Earth Pill. If you follow all sect requirements, you'll get a second. She lifted her delicate hand. An emerald green bracelet circled her wrist. A glow flashed off it and a paper scroll appeared in her hands. She handed it to Meng Hao. He looked at her bracelet for a long moment, then accepted the scroll. He examined it, lifted his right thumb and left a mark on the paper. Hanbei watched him. After he marked it, she produced a hand-sized jade box and set it aside. Here is your Sieve Earth Pill. Note, consume it only at night. Its full name is Moon Sieve Mother Earth Pill. It drinks in the moonlight. She smiled and rose to leave. Before departing, Meng Hao asked, have we met before? She stared in shock. I don't recall meeting you before, fellow Taoist Meng. My mistake, he said, frowning thoughtfully. I took you for someone else. Hanbei laughed. With a final nod, she transformed into a beam of light and departed, her smile turning thoughtful. Meng Hao picked up the jade box. After heading back inside, he opened it. Within was a medicinal pill the size of an infant's hand, white and wrapped in wax seal. A thick medicinal aroma wafted from it, along with rippling spiritual energy. One pill is enough for me, but I can't casually consume it. I need to test if it's real or fake. He put the box away and closed his eyes, continuing to meditate. Time passed. Soon it was late at night. The moon hung brightly and everything was quiet. Outside Meng Hao's mountain, a shadowy figure appeared silently, strange in appearance like a rippling hide. A closer look revealed the sallow-faced middle-aged man who had died. His eyes shone. He looked at the surrounding mountains, then selected Meng Hao's. His body flashed as he floated toward his residence. As he approached the mountain top, Meng Hao, sitting cross-legged in meditation, suddenly lifted his head. His eyes glittered brightly. Chapter 144. A Figure in the Crowd. Meng Hao gave a cold snort. His right hand slapped his cosmos bag, and the two wooden swords appeared silently. A talisman dropped into his hand, and his body became invisible. The sallow-faced man floated to the mountain top. All vegetation he passed withered as if life was sucked out. The limestone path turned to ash. Dense death chi encircled the mountain. But no one outside knew this was happening. The figure floated to Meng Hao's residence and passed directly through the wall to the second floor. He floated beneath the moonlight, his listless eyes flickering. Strange, demonic air emanated from him. The sallow-faced man looked around the second floor with menacing eyes. Meng Hao hadn't moved. He sat cross-legged, invisible, studying the figure. He recognized him instantly, though his appearance was strange. Something was wrong. Meng Hao remembered the scream from that mountain last night. The sallow-faced man had been there. He half understood what was happening. Dead and turned into an automaton, or controlled by spirit puppet arts. Suddenly, his body flashed, moving 3 meters to the side. Furniture near where he'd sat exploded into ash. The sallow-faced man, his eyes glowing strangely, charged at Meng Hao as if he could see him. Meng Hao ripped up the invisibility talisman and lifted his right hand, flashing an incantation gesture. The 2 wooden swords flew directly at the figure. It didn't dodge. Both swords passed through, leaving holes with no blood. The sallow-faced man seemed made of only skin. But then the holes merged, transforming into a large mouth. It tore from his body and shot toward Meng Hao, ready to devour him. Meng Hao's expression didn't change. He retreated, his hand flashing an incantation. A flame dragon roared into being and rushed toward the figure. It didn't dodge, it charged and consumed the dragon. It turned to look at him, lips twisted into a hideous grin. Then it threw itself at him. Meng Hao frowned, both hands flashing incantation gestures as he pushed forward. A multitude of flying swords appeared, shattered into shrapnel and shot forward with incredible force like a tornado toward the sallow-faced man. At the same time, the two wooden swords circled back, radiating sharpness, stabbing directly at its head. The black net followed, which Meng Hao tossed out. Popping sounds rang as flying sword shrapnel ripped the figure almost in half and the wooden sword stabbed into its head. Despite horrific injury, it still looked at Meng Hao with half its face and smiled. It rushed toward him again, but was enveloped by the black net. Its body writhed as it tried to squeeze through the gaps. Its body emitted a gravitational force that shook the second floor as if it would be sucked in. Can't kill it, it's not alive. No wonder it's killed so many Foundation establishment cultivators. Meng Hao watched the figure lurch toward him, eyes fierce and cold. He lifted his right hand, flashed an incantation sign and pointed down. Demon ceiling, 8th hex body ceiling. He lifted his hand and pointed at the broken figure. The building, the mountain shook, but not really, only an illusion. Meng Hao's body and finger were actually shaking. In his eyes, the world seemed to congeal. Multiple ghost images appeared, one atop another. The building and mountain existed in the illusion, as did the figure's ghost image. For the first time, surprise and disbelief appeared on the figure's face. Its mouth seemed to shape a cry, but the world's ghost images fell upon it, binding it. It couldn't move. Meng Hao stepped forward and lifted his right hand. Using his thumb, he cut his middle finger. Blood flowed, turning it into a blood finger. One of the blood immortal legacy arts branded on his mind. One of the 3 magical abilities that didn't require the mask. These arts required a powerful cultivation base. Meng Hao had managed to utilize the blood finger with practice, but the blood palm and blood death world remained beyond him. This was the first time in tens of thousands of years the blood finger appeared in the southern domain. Inherently powerful, combined with the blood immortal legacy spell matrix Meng Hao had mastered and his 3 perfect Dao pillars, this finger attack would shock even sect Dao children. Meng Hao strode forward and pressed his middle finger between the figure's eyebrows, scraping downward. A shrill scream sounded as its body trembled. A massive bloody cut appeared from between its eyebrows down 30 centimeters. Vast quantities of gray chi poured out. Suddenly it could move again, and it retreated at top speed, shooting from the second floor. Without hesitation, Meng Hao pursued, his eyes flashing. Everything was quiet, odd. He stopped, thought for a moment, then returned to his residence. He slapped his bag of holding, took out the good luck charm and cast spiritual sense into it. He breathed relief, it still worked. He didn't teleport but looked coldly from the building. No wind, no disturbance. If needed, he could leave instantly. Time passed. Suddenly a blood-curdling scream rose from a surrounding mountain. Then a second, a third, 5 total. 3 were Black Civ sect disciples who hadn't hidden. Their bodies withered, flesh and blood sucked away until lifeless skin fell to the ground. This night wouldn't pass peacefully. Many Foundation establishment cultivators stood guard. Black Civ disciples were dispatched. Not until dawn did things calm. Many saw it was a broken figure that slaughtered the disciples and 2 Foundation cultivators. A Black Civ elder eventually put it down. Most considered this the explanation they'd awaited. In the following days, no more Foundation cultivators died mysteriously. Gradually, people stopped talking about it. 6 days passed since Meng Hao arrived at the Black Civ sect. He maintained vigilance, but no one bothered him. On the 7th day's dawn, clear bell sounds rang out, filling the 10,000 mountains, reaching all Foundation establishment cultivators. "Fellow Taoists of the Southern Domain," a voice echoed, "you have received your Civ Earth pills. Now perform your services. If you help the Black Civ sect acquire what we seek, you will get more Civ Earth pills." Beam after beam of multicolored light shot up from the mountains as Foundation cultivators flew skyward. Meng Hao followed, floating in midair, looking coldly around. From the Black Civ sect 1,000 mountains, dozens of beams of prismatic light whistled up into the air. In addition, there were multiple black-colored feng shui compasses, each one around 30 meters in diameter. Upon each feng shui compass stood only one person. 3 or 4 wore Taoist robes of the Black Civ sect and were at the Qi condensation stage. The others were all of the Foundation establishment stage. The Qi condensation disciples all had embarrassed, nervous expressions on their faces, as if they didn't want to be here. However, they could not defy the orders of the sect. These were all outer sect disciples who had ordinary latent talent. Disciples with better latent talent would not have been dispatched out. Shortly afterward, 10 violet-colored feng shui compasses, 300 meters in diameter, flew out from the 100 Mountains region of the Black Civ sect. Upon each of these compasses sat a cross-legged cultivator. One of them was the girl named Han Bei. As far as the 9 other violetrope cultivators who sat cross-legged on the compasses, there were both men and women. All of them seemed in high spirits. These were obviously chosen from the sect. They flew forth and then hovered in the air. Further off in the distance, 3 golden-colored, 3,000-meter-wide feng shui compasses appeared. They flew forward. On each of these compasses sat a person. 2 were men and 1 was a woman. One was Elder Chen, and the other 2 appeared to be middle-aged, with cold expressions. The power of core formation rippled out from them, attracting everyone's attention. After the golden feng shui compasses, another, smaller one appeared. It was only about 300 meters in diameter and violet-colored. Sitting cross-legged on this feng shui compass was an old man in a violet robe. He had a black birthmark on his face which somewhat spoiled his transcendent demeanor. He looked fierce, and the instant he appeared, it seemed as if everything suddenly grew dark. However, what caught Meng Hao's attention wasn't the old man. Behind him was a massive feng shui compass with hundreds of cultivators. Amidst them was a lonely-looking woman. The instant he caught sight of her, Meng Hao thought of that day years ago, under the moonlight. In his mind, he could see her looking back at him, and could even hear the words she had spoken. I went to the pill cultivation workshop. The cosmetic cultivation pill you gave me before wasn't purchased by you. 1. If you want to reread the part with the quote from Elder Sister Sue, it's at the very end of chapter 37, Water and Ink in the Evening. Elder Sister Sue. Chapter 145, An Ancient Mountain Path. Patriarch Violet Civ. I never imagined the Black Civ sect's Patriarch Violet Civ would lead us. His killing aura is incredible. Years ago, while forming his nascent soul, his name shook the southern domain. He wiped out 3 sects in one night. The Black Civ sect has entered 5 times, leaving guards each time. Today is the 6th. Look how many they've mustered. This sect is powerful. No wonder it's one of the 5 great sects. Meng Hao heard the talk and felt the old man's pressure, but his vision fixed on the enormous yellow feng shui compass flying toward him. Standing atop it, amidst hundreds of cultivators, was a woman. She wore a long black gown, her face pale white, almost bloodless, making her chilly disposition icier still. Yet Meng Hao sensed she was merely covering a fragile heart. Elder Sister Sue, he murmured, looking at her. Finally, he could rest at ease. They weren't so far apart now, yet despite closeness, they remained worlds apart. Meng Hao frowned. A pretty, coquettish woman with a sneer stood next to Su Qing, criticizing her. Su Qing lowered her head as if she didn't dare speak. Her face grew paler. A cold glow appeared in Meng Hao's eyes. Several hundred ordinary disciples accompanied Su Qing on the massive compass. Their cultivation bases varied. A gigantic pitch-black statue of a bare-chested man with wings spread half-open stood among them. A tall hat perched oddly atop the statue's head. But his extraordinary spiritual sense revealed the statue was not lifeless, it was breathing. With each breath, it sucked chi from the hundreds of Black Civ disciples around it. Meng Hao's eyes narrowed. Many disciples looked in high spirits, obviously unaware what the statue was doing. A refined, elegant young man stood on the violet feng shui compass. He smiled at the rogue cultivators, including Meng Hao. Fellow Taoists, I presume you know me. I am Zai Jai One. Zai Jai's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Zai Jie. Zai is a surname and also the word for thanks. Jai means outstanding or heroic of the Black Civ sect. Meng Hao recognized his voice from before. I think many fellow Taoists speculate about our trip today, he said. I'll explain as we go. Please follow me. The violet feng shui compass suddenly expanded to 3,000 meters wide and flew toward them. The rogue cultivators, thinking different thoughts, began flying as beams of light toward the violet compass. Among roughly 100 rogue cultivators, most were early foundation establishment like Meng Hao. 18 were mid-stage, and only 3 were late-stage. One late stage was the old man Meng Hao arrived with. Another was a fierce-looking man in white robes with a ghastly air, no beard, small Adam's apple, but surrounded by desolate killing aura. The last was a plain, somewhat overweight woman. Her late foundation establishment cultivation rippled, making everyone treat her politely. All 3 joined Zai Jai, who treated them far more respectfully, leading them to the side. Meng Hao looked around and spotted Lu Tao and the richly dressed woman from the secret meeting. Another person caught his attention, early Foundation establishment milling innocuously in the crowd. A chi-like rotting corpse stench, hard to describe. No one else seemed to notice, but Meng Hao thought about the demon sealing Jade information and the prickly chi he'd sensed in the Black Civ sect. The compass vibrated and shot forward. Together with other Black Civ compasses, they transformed into colorful beams speeding through the air toward the 100 mountains. Meng Hao stood quietly, unmoving. His cultivation appeared early Foundation establishment stage. No one noticed him except Lu Tao. Su Qing didn't notice him either, her face bitter as if pondering her future. As the compasses neared the 100 mountains center, smoke from the massive incense burner twisted into the air. Layer upon layer formed an enormous smoke ring. As the ring formed, space rippled in the middle. The lead compass entered and vanished. Meng Hao's eyes flickered as the violet compass he stood on entered. All compasses and cultivators entered, then the smoke ring disappeared and the Black Civ sect returned to normal. Shields appeared outside the 100 mountains, around the 1,000 mountains and 100,000 mountains. The entire sect sealed tight, no one could enter or leave. As the Black Civ sect sealed, divine sense from multiple locations swept the state of clear skies. Sects and clans from the southern domain investigated, but agreements prevented interference. On the compass, Zai Jai's voice rang out. Fellow Taoists, don't alarm. This is one of the Black Civ sect's most valuable treasures, the heaven-forged furnace. In ancient times, void-penetrating runes made it a teleportation portal. As to where it leads, I'm afraid none of you know it. Even I don't really. The teleportation had caused talk, but Zai Jai's words quieted everyone. Meng Hao looked around coldly. They were surrounded by blackness with star-like points of light. Everything was empty, without light. Only compass glow illuminated the people. Compasses flew ahead one after another. Most Black Civ disciples sat cross-legged meditating. Only the violet compass, S-chosen, stared into the blackness. Further away, the three-core formation eccentrics seemed to discuss via divine thought. Patriarch Violet Civ, the most powerful, sat motionless meditating, eyes closed. Su Qing sat silently among several hundred disciples. The statue seemed about to melt into the darkness. Ghost images radiated from it, adding bizarreness. On Zai Jai's compass, an old man in gray robe frowned. Fellow Taoist Zai, you said you've been here before, yet you don't know where we're going. Zai Jai hesitated, then smiled. I know about our path. As fellow Taoists too surmised, ancient cultivators used this path to travel to the stars and collect foreign spirit lineages. It is a path between mountains. The cultivators stared in astonishment, looking around to fix the details in memory. Not a true path between mountains, Zai Jai said, contentedly observing their shocked faces. Only immortals can tread that path. This is a subsidiary branch like streams flowing into the Milky Way. It's a path we shouldn't walk, which is why we need the heaven-forged furnace. It protects us. Opening it required a great sex power. Ordinary sex couldn't. Zai Jai's eyes swept the crowd and rested on Meng Hao. He frowned. Ah, you must be fellow Taoist Meng. Please sit here. He'd noticed Meng Hao earlier. Before departing, three-core formation patriarchs had charged him to watch Meng Hao. He didn't understand why three-core formation patriarchs would watch an early Foundation establishment rogue cultivator. His smile at Meng Hao was false. He had no goodwill and called Meng Hao's name to sow discord, hoping to learn something. As he anticipated, the surrounding rogue cultivators looked at Meng Hao. Many stared. Meng Hao's expression was unchanged. He'd known his actions would attract attention. It was unavoidable. He nodded slightly. I'm fine here, he said. My cultivation base is weak, unsuitable among such powerful figures. The three-core formation eccentrics communicating ahead noticed. They didn't interfere. Unsure of Meng Hao's extraordinary abilities, the Black Civ sect leader had issued special watch instructions. Zai Jai smiled lightly and was about to speak when the Feng Shui compass shook and stopped. All compasses ahead also stopped. Their magical light went out. The three-core formation eccentrics' faces changed. Patriarch Violet Civ opened his eyes for the first time, shining with dignity and caution. An archaic voice echoed in all minds. Everyone quiet. An intangible seal prevented speech. Suddenly, a beautiful five-colored light appeared in the darkness. An enormous jellyfish, tens of thousands of meters large, floated before them. Countless tentacles swayed gently. Its semi-transparent body rippled as its glow shone into the onlooker's eyes. Within the jellyfish lay a rotting corpse, half digested. This chapter was sponsored by Quentin Nivon, Dan Tran, Danius Glebus and Joshua Marsh. Chapter 146. This is ultimate vexation. A hole between the corpse's eyebrows appeared frozen forever, as if the rest would decay, but this spot would exist eternally. Everyone stood still, gazing at the jellyfish as it slowly floated past. Its tentacles drifted among the feng shui compasses, then into the distance. Finally, Patriarch Violet Civ sighed lightly. He stood, facing the departing jellyfish, clasped his hands and gave a deep, respectful bow. His ancient voice slowly filled the air. That was the Black Civ sect's third-generation ancestor. His cultivation was at the peak of Tao-seeking stage. As he attempted immortal ascension, a Wang clan patriarch mounted a sneak attack. He couldn't achieve immortality and fell to this path. Our sect and the Wang clan fought a bloody war lasting 3,000 years. Eventually hostilities ceased. However, all Black Civ disciples should remember this history. Many disciples heard this for the first time. Their eyes glittered. Meng Hao's heart thumped as he silently watched the jellyfish depart. The group proceeded onward without encountering more phenomena like the jellyfish. After about 2 days, the feng shui compass glow disappeared down a smaller path branch. Meng Hao saw an incredible mountain range stretching endlessly. Everything was gray with no vegetation. Far in the distance lay a massive fissure-like canyon forming a path. Cliffs on either side stretched down with no visible bottom. Several hundred cultivators sat cross-legged outside the canyon, all pale-faced and worn. 40 or 50 wore random clothing, obviously not Black Civ disciples, rogue cultivators who'd arrived earlier than Meng Hao's group. The two groups exchanged glances. The rest were Black Civ disciples. When they saw Patriarch Violet Civ's group, their expressions brightened. They stood, and from their midst emerged a beautiful middle-aged woman in resplendent clothing. If you forgot about the beautiful middle-aged woman, then you should reread Chapter 42, Who Dares to Touch Him? She emanated mature grace, though her face was pale. Seeing Patriarch Violet Civ, she sighed lightly and nodded. Meng Hao recognized her, though she didn't notice him. She was the one who'd taken Su Qing from the Reliance sect all those years ago. Two nascent soul cultivators now present, thought Meng Hao. What is this place? Is it really a blessed land? He patted his cosmos bag, held up the good luck charm, and sent spiritual power into it. The teleportation ability remained, lessening his anxiety. A main reason he'd come to the Black Civ sect was relying on the charm's teleportation. Patriarch Reliance had kept it in his collection, making Meng Hao confident in it, though he'd never tried it. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of Su Qing in the large group. Her brow was furrowed as a coquettish woman next to her ridiculed her. Meng Hao frowned. Su Qing was unhappy. Looking at the coquettish woman, coldness in his eyes grew icier. Patriarch Violet Civ stood, the compass beneath him shrank. He strode toward the beautiful woman and they conversed in low tones. An unsightly expression appeared as they discussed. Then they turned and walked toward the fissure. All Black Civ disciples left the compasses, transforming into beams of light shooting into the fissure. The cross-legged cultivators also rose and moved in. Zai clasped hands to the rogue cultivators, including Meng Hao. Please follow me. The compass beneath them shrank. Everyone considered. No one retreated. The group turned to beams of light and shot into the fissure. Meng Hao flew forward calmly and slowly. Behind him, the group with Su Qing followed. She was Foundation establishment and couldn't achieve true flight, instead flying on a colorful mist. Meng Hao slowed, but Zai suddenly turned, eyes flashing like lightning. He seemed about to speak when a woman suddenly approached from the side. Fellow Taoist Meng, we meet again. A beautiful, charming woman in a violet robe flew at his side, her smile revealing white teeth. This was Han Bei, who delivered the Civ Earth pill days ago. A fellow Taoist Han, said Meng Hao nodding. Nearly 1,000 cultivators whistled into the fissure. Cliffs rose on either side. Nothing was visible beneath. The fissure seemed bottomless. Fellow Taoist Meng, Han Bei said suddenly, her voice light and pleasant, you have refined style, presumably from an extraordinary family. Do you really need this event for a Civ Earth pill? Meng Hao's eyes flickered as he studied her. I don't understand, fellow Taoist Han. The group had flown far into the fissure. The cliff walls were gradually turning black. Rocks began to glitter. Before Han Bei could respond, surrounding cultivators spoke excitedly. A crystal glyph. What is this place? So much crystal, superior to high-grade spirit stones. Some cultivators flew up and struck the crystal face, clearly intending to dig some out. Instantly blood-curdling screams rang as their bodies withered. Life force, flesh, and blood were sucked away. In a blink, they became drifting ash, including their bags. The cliff wall where they'd touched grew more crystalline, twinkling mysteriously. Meng Hao's eyes narrowed. The surrounding rogue cultivators sucked in their breath. The Black Sieve disciples didn't seem to notice, already aware of the cliff's danger. "Brother Meng," said Hanbei with a deep, meaningful smile. "You're being watched. Look out for yourself. By the way, are you really surnamed Meng?" Before he could respond, she left his side. An enormous roaring sound filled the air and everything shook, then suddenly disappeared. Meng Hao frowned as Hanbei flew away. His gaze fell on an enormous stone door ahead, which Patriarch Violet Sieve and the beautiful woman were destroying together. The stone door refused to stay broken. Some unusual power made it grow back together. Past the broken door, Meng Hao saw another group of 200 cross-legged cultivators who stood. A pale-faced young man held a pearl that glowed gently, slowing the door's recovery. Junior Liu Wu extends greetings to the patriarchs. Patriarch Violet Sieve and the beautiful woman entered through. They flicked their sleeves, causing the door to repair even more slowly. The 1,000 cultivators, including Meng Hao, shot through quickly. With the three-core formation eccentrics at the rear, no one would dare retreat. Beyond the stone door lay 4 similar doors, each followed by more Black Sieve disciples. As they proceeded, Meng Hao grew increasingly cautious. The Black Sieve sect had investigated this area many times. "These stone doors are seals, this place." Meng Hao looked ahead, his brow furrowed. Suddenly, everyone stopped. A large black door stood before them, made of metallic substance, inset into both cliff walls, emitting black glow. An enormous face covered its surface, eyes closed as if sleeping. As they approached, the eyes opened and the face roared, shaking everything. Even Patriarch Violet Sieve coughed up blood. Meng Hao did as well. Blood from the group turned to a stream the face sucked in. After gobbling it up, the face burped. The face's voice roared like thunder. "By my master's orders, I guard ultimate vexation. Without the pendant, you may not enter the—" What are you doing here?" Patriarch Violet Sieve and the beautiful woman clasped hands and bowed deeply, reverent looks on their faces. Patriarch Violet Sieve pulled out a bamboo tube, from which flew a dilapidated hide. Meng Hao's eyes narrowed. The feeling matched that from the strange figure that night. As the hide flew out, an indistinct eye image appeared and stared at Meng Hao. Their gazes locked, and Meng Hao's pupils constricted. The hide unfurled, coming to rest before the face. Chapter 147, Looking at Each Other. "You can only use this once," the face said, yawning. Behind the group, a fierce cry rang out. Meng Hao looked back. The strange statue was melting into 3 globes of black mist. Inside each sphere was an old person surrounded by death aura, the 3 from the platform beneath the Black Sieve sect. The elder shot toward the face in black mist. They merged into it, causing it to twist and distort. Slowly, the mouth opened wide. An archaic voice sounded. "Enter quickly, we can only hold for half an incense stick's burn." The voice seemed from the yellow springs of the underworld. It echoed, shaking everyone's hearts. A flickering figure emerged from the mouth. A middle-aged man whose entire cultivation base seemed burning. Half his body was destroyed, his crimson core visible, burning. His hair was wild, his face twisted with insanity. He screamed as he rushed out, "All dead." The 100 names pillar was not completed. "All dead. Hehehe, all dead." "That's Elder Zheng. He was in the advanced group. How did he end up like this?" Buzz of conversation arose among the Black Sieve disciples who instantly recognized him. Zai Jai's pupils constricted. Han Bei's expression flickered as she narrowed her eyes, a strange light flashing within. The other chosen had similar reactions. The man rushed out in frenzy, spewing lunacy that echoed through the fissure. Everyone was shocked. His condition was more astonishing. His visible crimson core showed he was a core formation eccentric. In such miserable state and obviously insane, everyone wondered what they might face inside. The word "dead," uttered 3 times, echoed like an invisible hammer striking the hearts of those who heard it. Black Sieve disciples were less affected, knowing more than the rogue cultivators. Their numbers had increased through each door, now about 200, every face twisted. Death's shadow spread from the crazed core formation eccentric, filling the area. But as the man flew from the black door ranting, Patriarch Violet Sieve's eyes shone powerfully. He strode toward Elder Zheng and raised his hand. Color seemed to fade from the world, and Elder Zheng rushed toward him, out of control. As he lurched forward, Patriarch Violet Sieve lifted his right hand and slapped him on the head. The slap boomed, shaking everything. Elder Zhang's body trembled, his eyes grew clear. The burning in his crimson core began to fade. He recovered his wits. Before he could speak, Patriarch Violet Civ cold harumphed and flicked his sleeve. A black wind swept up Elder Zhang and tossed him away. Ramblings? You're an elder, so I spared your life. Return to the sect and meditate in seclusion for 100 years as punishment. Patriarch Violet Civ acted quickly and efficiently. He lifted his hand, and Meng Hao and the other rogue cultivators felt intense pressure racing their hearts. Rogue cultivators, he said coolly, you accepted our medicinal pills and signed our contract. We have arrived at the ancient blessed land. Unfortunately, its interior is unstable and incompatible with high cultivation bases. If you acquire designated items, trade them for more Civ Earth pills. Take these Jade slips. Pressure filled the area. He flicked his sleeve, and 200 Jade slips flew to hover before the rogue cultivators. This is dangerous but not a death trap. Many of our disciples will enter with you, rest assured. The beautiful woman next to him coolly looked over the crowd. With their cultivation bases, no one could defy them. Meng Hao silently placed the good luck charm into his bag. The other rogue cultivators remained silent, their thoughts unclear. These foundation establishment cultivators not in any sect were capable schemers, not foolish ones. They'd come for their own benefit and knew danger awaited. 7 or 8 figures flashed ahead toward the black door. They entered and vanished. With them leading, others followed wordlessly into the face. Meng Hao murmured to himself, studying Patriarch Violet Civ and the beautiful woman. The core formation eccentrics in the rear watched with cold faces. Elder Sister Su is in trouble, I can't ignore it. Determination filled his eyes. He flew up with nearby cultivators, turning to beams of light that shot toward the face. Halfway there, he turned his head and looked back. He saw Zai Jai's faint, hypocritical smile, Han Bei and the other chosen. Off in the distance, pale-faced Su Qing stood amidst the crowd. When Meng Hao's gaze fell on her, Su Qing trembled, staring in shock. Disbelief filled her face as she looked back. Many years had passed. Meng Hao had changed greatly, but she recognized him instantly. She had brought him to the Reliance sect, where he became her junior brother. He had given her the cosmetic cultivation pill beneath the moon. Scenes from the past filled her mind. Memories and frustrations merged in her heart, rippling like a dream. Their gazes locked. 1,000 people stood between them, yet despite distance and time, they weren't far apart. They were very, very close. Meng Hao gave her a warm smile. He'd come to the Black Civ sect to see her, an old friend. Now he had, and she had seen him. He turned and disappeared into the face's mouth. The moment he vanished, Su Qing's heart grew empty. Without realizing, she took a step forward. Too late, Meng Hao was gone. Feelings welled inside her she didn't understand. On the outside, she remained cold. No one usually touched her heart, she protected it fiercely, yet joy had arisen inside. Then Meng Hao disappeared and she felt she'd lost something. She rarely felt this, always suppressing it. Today, she couldn't. Hey, I'm talking to you, slut. It was the coquettish girl who was standing next to her. If you want to pretend you can't hear me, fine, she said venomously. But do you really think you can avoid me? Humph, she laughed coldly. You got injured last time. If elder brother Zhao hadn't asked junior sister Han to save you, then you would have died inside. But instead of being thankful, you got more standoffish. It's just a little cherry, why do you care so much about that? What an idiot. The coquettish woman looked at Su Qing's cold, beautiful face and gave a grim smile. The more jealous she got, the more she wanted Su Qing to end up like her. Su Qing turned around to face the woman who had treated her so poorly all these years. One word at a time, she said. That day in the blessed land, it was your own elder brother Zhao who broke the rules and almost got me killed. And elder sister Han didn't save me because elder brother Zhao asked her to, but because she took my bag of holding and just happened to grab me along with it. Her demeanor was cold, and her expression very serious. This was the personality that she usually kept hidden from her fellow disciples. The coquettish woman could never have anticipated that the Su Qing who she constantly taunted would ever talk back to her. She stared for a moment and then laughed coldly. So the slut dares to speak, she said derisively. Elder brother Zhao has already arranged everything. You won't be able to get away this time. I'm going to stand there and watch while your cherry gets taken. Eventually, you'll thank me. The cultivators around her began to fly up into the air toward the black door. Su Qing's body flashed as she stepped onto her colorful mist and shot forward. The coquettish woman was behind her, laughing coldly. But then she noticed a man up ahead, wearing a violet robe. He looked back, and a charming smile instantly covered her face. The handsome man in the violet robe was young and had a cultivation base of the early foundation establishment stage. He nodded at her slightly. Then his gaze fell upon Su Qing, and his eyes filled with a burning desire. This was none other than the man the coquettish woman constantly spoke about, elder brother Zhao. Chapter 148, Things are about to go down. Everyone entered the black door, and the face began to warp. 3 misty figures dissolved from it, transforming into 3 wizened old cultivators looking as if they'd just crawled from the grave. Without hesitation, they headed back toward the statue they'd come from. As they moved, massive black aura emanated from them, as if corroding. "What happened?" said the face. "Oh well, without the authentication item you cannot enter." It looked confused, then its eyes cleared and it began to howl. 11 people remained in the fissure. Besides Patriarch Violet Civ and the beautiful woman, there were 9 others, all core formation cultivators. They ignored the howling, sitting cross-legged and closing their eyes, their hands flickering with incantation gestures. A ginseng fruit appeared floating in their center. The fruit was glittering and translucent, its interior roiling as if containing heaven's fortune. The spirit fruit writhed with the 9 cultivation bases rotation, appearing to grow a head and 4 limbs. Patriarch Violet Civ and the woman stood to the side, gazes fixed on the spirit fruit. "I went in once," the woman said with a frown, "but after 30 breaths the expelling force became intense. Even with divine sense I couldn't locate the object. I hope the 100 Spirits Tower works. It's not quite complete yet. Hopefully this time there's enough." Patriarch Violet Civ was silent, then coolly replied, "I prepared the spirit ginseng. With the ginseng form we stay inside for an incense stick's burn. Everything is prepared. If we fail, the sect leader and patriarchs will open the blessed land to the public. We'll borrow the southern domain's might to refine the legendary object. For cultivators like us, that object is our only hope besides the rebirth cave." The woman hesitated, then said, "If that happens we must share. Even if the Black Civ sect refines it, more people means less chance of our turn. I might manage, but you and others will be limited." "True, even if we sacrifice some disciples, we will not fail." Dark violet appeared in his birthmark, giving him a fierce look. Backslash. The world spun. Everything was murky, then grew clear. The dark sky became deep blue. Dark soil covered the earth below. Verdant foliage covered rolling hills. A large river snaked through mountains, its water gurgling. This was what Meng Hao saw when he appeared. No one else was visible. "This place is pretty big," he said, looking up. The sun was setting, filling the sky with beautiful red. Upon closer observation, he saw evidence of an invisible moon. Our classic of time group meets where sun and moon shadows intersect. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he strode forward, transforming into a prismatic beam. "And that supposed 100 Spirits Tower, what is it?" Meng Hao felt misgivings. His first action was retrieving the good luck charm from his cosmos bag. Probing it with spiritual sense, he felt at ease. He was valuing it more and more. "No wonder Patriarch Reliance kept it. It can even teleport from this place." He put it back, his life-saving treasure now. "Su Qing was right behind me, but the Black Civ sect people appeared randomly. I need to find her quickly." A fierce glow appeared in his eyes as he thought of the coquettish woman's cold laugh and Su Qing's pale face. He took out the jade slip distributed by the Black Civ sect. Imbuing it with spiritual sense, he saw a list of names. He perused it, retracted his spiritual sense, and crushed the slip. Then he shot forward, searching for her. Evening fell. The sky darkened and the moon rose. Meng Hao stood on a small hill, looking at ancient ruins not far ahead. Dark clouds covered the moon, obscuring the ruins. They seemed incredibly old, as if they'd seen many ages pass. Many, many years ago it had been a bustling city. Now it was half consumed by land. Only a few structures remained, falling apart. On this moonlit night it seemed lonely. Wind blew across, carrying strange sounds, countless people murmuring softly. All the voices combined created a bizarre feeling. A stone stele stood before the ruins. Its carved characters were nearly gone, the stele almost blank and cracked. He looked it over, about to leave, when suddenly his expression flickered. The dark clouds passed, moonlight spilled down. He caught sight of something in a steel crack, a golden vine-like twig, squirming, covered with leaves wrapped around thumb-sized fruit pieces. He recognized these moonstone fruits from the crushed jade slip, items the Black Civ sect wanted. His expression calm, Meng Hao did nothing. He simply sat on the hill cross-legged, looking out with cold eyes. Not too much time passed before a figure sped out from the nearby forest. It was a middle-aged man with a cultivation base at the early foundation establishment stage. He shot directly toward the stone stele, arriving in front of it in the blink of an eye. He reached up to grab the moonstone fruit. However, the instant he touched one of the fruits, a cold light sprang out from within the stone stele. The middle-aged cultivator shot backward, a look of shock on his face. The cold light transformed into several beams, which swept toward him. Popping sounds rang out and the man coughed up blood. Astonishment was written on his face as he attempted to defend himself. But before he could do anything, his body began to tremble. Suddenly, his head flew off of his shoulders, severed. At the same time, the golden vines in the cracks of the steel extended out, entwining around the headless body. One of the vines stabbed into the bloody flesh. It seemed to be swallowing something. Sure enough, in the space of a few breaths, the cultivator's body shriveled and withered. Meng Hao saw all of this happen. He continued to sit there quietly, a brilliant glow emanating from his eyes. What are the vines consuming? He thought. Even as he watched, the stone stele began to ripple and distort, and a grim-faced young man wearing a violet robe walked out of it. He was at the peak of the mid-foundation establishment stage, close to the late stage. Wrapped around his arms were thick rattan vines, which stretched out like tentacles. He looked very fear-inspiring. Meng Hao had seen him before. He was one of the Black Sieve sect disciples that had traveled in the group with him to this place. He had been among the chosen on the violet Feng Shui compass. The young man didn't give a passing glance to the shriveled-up corpse. Instead, he raised his head to look directly at the hill where Meng Hao was seated. His eyes flashed. Meng Hao sat there cross-legged, looking back at him. There was only a few hundred meters distance between them. They looked at each other for the space of a few breaths. Then, the young man dashed forward and leaped into the air, his body transforming into a prismatic beam that shot toward Meng Hao. Meanwhile, in a different location not too far away, Su Qing sped along, her face pale. The colorful mist beneath her feet was on the verge of falling apart. Behind her was elder brother Zhao from the Black Sieve sect. A smile covered his face. At his side was the coquettish woman who was surnamed Zhu. Together, they pursued Su Qing in a leisurely fashion. "Junior sister Su, you were able to get away last time because you got lucky," he said. He was quite handsome, this young man named Zhao. "This time, however, I paid off elder brother Zai. He issued a secret order for any disciple who caught sight of you to notify me. Look, we've only been here for a couple hours and I already found you." He laughed, and the sound of his voice rang into Su Qing's ears, causing her face to grow even more pale. She gritted her teeth tightly. She said nothing, instead shooting forward as fast as possible. However, it didn't really matter how fast she went. Zhao was a foundation establishment cultivator, and there was really nothing she could do to evade him. "Junior sister Su, you're lucky to have elder brother Zhao take a fancy to you. When it happened to me, I didn't like either, but things are fine now. Just give in and everything will be fine." The coquettish woman did nothing as the young man named Zhao rubbed his hands across her body. She laughed. "I don't want to make it hard on you," said Zhao, the fire in his eyes growing stronger. "I just want your cherry. I have a foundation establishment pill that I can offer in trade. It's a fair price, but you just keep refusing me. You can't blame me for taking it by force." He lifted a finger on his right hand. The finger sent a stiff breeze flowing. It rushed past Su Qing, causing her robes to lift up and reveal quite a bit of skin. Su Qing trembled a bit, and some blood seeped out of the corners of her mouth. And yet, she just clenched her jaw and kept moving forward. The young man named Zhao just laughed a few times. His eyes burned as he lifted his hand again. Chapter 149, Killing Intent. Meng Hao stood on the hill, calmly watching the violet-robed youth charge toward him. As he approached, he kicked up wind, and the 7 or 8 tentacle-like vines expanded to python size, their ends wide mouths filled with sharp teeth. "Mid-foundation establishment stage," said Meng Hao calmly, his face unchanged. He was early foundation establishment but had a perfect foundation. He lacked foundation establishment techniques but had a boundless course from chi condensation thanks to the sublime spirit scripture, having reached the great circle before advancing. His explosive growth came during the Blood Immortal Legacy Tournament, when his cultivation-based prowess reached high enough to challenge Li Dai, a Dao child of the Li clan. Though he didn't win, he severed Dai's arm. A non-Dao child cultivator he could have killed easily. At mid-foundation establishment, he could hold his own against the various sects, Dao children. So a mere mid-stage chosen required no effort. The violet-robed youth approached with a cold smile and powerful killing intent. Meng Hao stood framed by dark night, moonlight shining on him, his expression calm. He lifted his hand, using his fingernail to slice open his finger skin. He stepped forward casually, and the instant the youth arrived, waved his finger in seemingly random fashion. As the finger descended, a great wind sprang up. The youth's expression changed. His pupils constricted, his eyes filled with disbelief. His vision suddenly turned red, not illusion but real. Everything was red, only a solitary blood-covered finger. It shot toward him. The vines, writhing viciously with open mouths, suddenly emitted miserable shrieks. They quivered, and before reaching 30 meters, collapsed into blood. The blood formed a shield surrounding the youth. This took moments, not more. The youth began to scream, trying to retreat. Meng Hao sprang into action. He stepped, then flew toward the youth. He lifted his hand and touched the shield with his index finger. "Break," he said it lightly, and an explosion filled the air. The shield collapsed, the vines broke to pieces. Only the violet golden fruit rippled with life, begging for mercy. "You?" The youth's face was pale, blood spilling from his mouth. His eyes filled with intense fear, the first time. A chosen violetrope disciple with high intersect position, he'd never been defeated in battle magic. People usually sought him for his popularity. But now, seeing expressionless Meng Hao, he felt unprecedented life-or-death danger. The violetrobed youth lifted his hands, flashed an incantation, and swiped his palm forward 7 or 8 times. Each sent ripples congealing into massive black hands facing Meng Hao. Meng Hao calm, opened his mouth and spat lightning mist. It slammed into the hand with a boom. The youth's expression filled with despair. Before another incantation, Meng Hao arrived in front of him. His knee flew up, slamming into the young man's neck. The youth's head filled with buzzing, then intense pain. His incantation hand went limp, his body bent to the side. All blood rushed to his head, making his face dark reddish-purple. He opened his mouth fearfully, his body trembling. He wanted to say something facing death. He never spoke. Meng Hao stretched his hand and used his fingernail to slice between the youth's eyebrows. His hand made a strange gesture and pushed down. A boom sounded. The youth's body flew backward like a kite with cut string. Blood gathered in his head, fountain from the cut on his face. He couldn't cry out, only blood shot like a geyser from between his eyebrows. His body slammed to the ground, twitched, then lay still in death. Blood shot from his body, burning, turning to mist, then congealing into a fingernail-sized drop. It shot toward Meng Hao, who snatched it. 3 generations form a small body, 6 generations form a full body, 9 is a blood spirit or death. Meng Hao spoke coolly. He just used the spirit-devouring scripture on the violetrobed youth. His violet robe meant he was a black civ chosen. Chosen had powerful bloodlines. Meng Hao looked at the blood a moment, then put it away. He looked at the youth's corpse, picked up his bag of holding and the violet golden fruit that had been begging for mercy. The fruit quivered in his hand, alive and pleading. "I don't keep useless objects. What can you do? Show me." He tossed the fruit down. It immediately wriggled. Vines sprang out, growing quickly. In about 10 breaths, 10 or more vines, 30 meters each, burrowed partly into the ground and stretched up, swaying, filling the area. Quite awe-inspiring. "Not good enough," Meng Hao said, shaking his head. The vines trembled. Suddenly they bent, shooting toward the corpse. Shockingly, they ripped it apart like a melon and swallowed it down. Meng Hao frowned as the vines consumed the body within a few breaths. Then the tentacles trembled, suddenly sprouting leaves with glowing magical symbols. Meng Hao was shocked. Soon nearly 100 leaves appeared. The magical symbols drifted from the vines toward Meng Hao, merging into a book of leaves. He took the book and flipped through it. His eyes filled with bright light. The symbols held power similar to spiritual sense, describing a technique. 19 black cloud strikes, the technique the violetrobed youth had just used against him. Incomplete, only 5 strikes described, the rest missing mnemonics. The young man probably hadn't mastered the full technique. Meng Hao studied it, his eyes narrowing. With his perfect Tao pillar, deducing its use wasn't difficult. The manual was incomplete because the violet gold vines weren't powerful enough. Still, he was quite excited. If he let them develop, things would be different. He put away the book and nodded. He waved his sleeve and a blood drop descended on the vines, branding them deeply. A blood seal from the blood immortal legacy techniques. The vines shook, their color slowly changing. Soon they were dark red, looking somewhat demonic as they swayed around him, a demonic aura drifting up, almost imperceptible. Meng Hao looked at them thoughtfully, then glanced back at the ruins. Taking the youth's bag of holding, he examined its contents. One jade slip attracted his notice. It was pure white. After casting his spiritual sense into it, a map appeared. Many white dots moved on it, along with about 200 gray dots, most also moving. He observed the map and determined his location. A place nearby showed 3 white dots, 1 fleeing, 2 pursuing. He frowned, his heart pounding. He sent spiritual sense into the first light, and an image appeared. Pale-faced Su Qing, biting her lower lip, speeding forward as fast as possible. Meng Hao's killing intent rocketed to the sky. Studying the 2 pursuers' images, he saw the coquettish woman being held by the playful Zhao. Cold air emanated from him, his eyes shining brightly. The vines around him sensed his killing intent and radiated death aura. Without hesitation, Meng Hao transformed into a beam of light shooting toward her. The red vines followed, burrowing underground. Chapter 150, Simple and Uncomplicated. Zhao Shan was quite proud, holding Zhu Yunqui in one arm as he pursued Su Qing, his face filled with lechery. He lifted his hand, sending wind past her, lifting her garments. He laughed loudly. Seeing Su Qing stubborn yet weak filled him with excitement. He sent more wind, damaging her garments more. She bit her lip, fleeing. Desperation began welling within her. Zhu Yunqi's fawning and Su Qing's vicious remarks made Zhao's eyes shine brighter. Yet he wasn't hurried. Su Qing wouldn't have good fortune like last time. She couldn't escape him, so he'd enjoy the capturing process. That's what he loved most. The weaker his prey, the more exciting. The more she struggled, the crueler he'd be. Su Qing, I've watched you since you entered. I even spread the word. Why do you think no one's bothered you? Yet you refuse my goodwill. You don't appreciate favors. You can't blame me for being ruthless. He laughed heartily. In the sect, he'd be cautious about breaking rules with many people around. Here, he had nothing to fear. A conclave disciple of the Black Sieve sect, a position higher than inner sect, he could call wind and summon rain among disciples. One of his Zhao clan patriarchs was a Black Sieve elder. Several hundred years ago, a Zhao clan member reached nascent soul and became sect patriarch, then entered secluded meditation. Because of that patriarch, the Zhao clan was deeply entrenched in the Black Sieve sect. Despite being conclave disciple, Zhao Shan lacked extraordinary talent. No one with his talent would reach foundation establishment, but with core formation patriarch support and multiple foundation establishment pills, he made it. After becoming foundation establishment, he was pleased with himself. Grown up in the sect, except for a few people he couldn't provoke, everyone must bend to his will. Wind if he wanted, rain if he wanted. 2 sons of his Zhao clan generation existed. One was him, the other his cousin Zhao Binwu from another branch. Like him, Binwu was conclave disciple. His talent far exceeded Zhao Shan, making him important to nurture. Shan knew this and avoided rivalry, instead immersing himself in pleasure. If he fancied a female disciple, she wouldn't refuse. Refusing was useless. Patriarchs didn't care. He could expand the clan. If a female disciple got pregnant, she'd instantly have higher position. Due to lucky circumstances, Zhao Shan was like a spoiled rich kid within the sect. Unknown outside, but infamous within. Look, the stars are out. It's almost time. We can use them as wedding candles, this place as nuptial chamber. What do you say? He laughed, lifting a finger to send another wind blast at her. Her body trembled, blood seeping from her mouth. Zhao had to carefully control the spiritual energy, or it would kill her. As her body quivered, the cloud beneath her feet fell apart. She fell to the ground. Laughing, Zhu Yunqui shot forward and grabbed her, shoving her into dirt. She couldn't struggle. Her face was pale, features wan. But coldness filled her eyes watching Zhao Shan walk over, untying his robe. Desperation filled her as she tried to bite off her tongue, but Zhu Yunqui restrained her jaw. Now, junior sister, you can't do that. If you want to kill yourself, wait until elder brother Zhao is done. Zhu Yunqui laughed, her words tender but sinister. Excellent, excellent, Zhao laughed, appreciating Zhu. He stroked her face, her eyes shining at his approval. He looked at Su Qing, helplessly pinned by Zhu. His gaze roved her curves and he laughed. If I gave you medicinal pills, I couldn't enjoy the struggle, so of course I won't. His robe was completely untied. Su Qing's body quivered, tears seeping from her eyes. She couldn't struggle. Zhu's cultivation was higher. She was exhausted, held down tightly. No way to flee. Coldness left her face, replaced with bitterness and desperation. Her eyes emptied. She saw the Reliance sect, Meng Hao standing on the east mountain, Mount Daqing, the young scholar tossing a rattan vine over a cliff. She remembered first seeing Meng Hao 1. The first time Su Qing met Meng Hao was in Chapter 1, Scholar Meng Hao. standing behind him as he searched for vines, watching him throw it, hearing him speak of immortals to people below. She thought him interesting, a mortal scholar, so she'd taken him with her. She remembered the crowd's stares too. The stares of the crowd was from Chapter 5. This kid isn't bad when Meng Hao offered the medicinal pill, how he'd gazed back right before entering the black door. It's all over. Streaming tears made her face bleak. She couldn't stop shaking, scared. From leaving the Reliance sect until now she'd found no happiness, and now everything seemed to end. As a little girl, she'd realized she wasn't intelligent, sometimes very foolish. She learned to cover it with a cold smile. Coldness and silence concealed her lack of intelligence and made the world simpler. She didn't like complicated things, she didn't understand them. She liked peace and quiet. She liked practicing cultivation alone, watching years pass, observing life's ebb and flow, recalling beautiful memories. This was her, Su Qing, cold exterior, simple heart. She tried not to cry. Her body shook, eyes closed. She didn't want to see Zhao and his overwhelming strength. A qi condensation cultivator in a sect where happiness was unachievable, she had no strength to resist or even die. As she closed her eyes, Zhu laughed into her ear, her voice cool and complex. You can't fight back, just close your eyes. That's what I did years ago. Blame your aloofness and weak cultivation base. Zhao's laughter echoed. He waved his right hand, pink glow spreading, enveloping a 30-meter radius, creating a glimmering pink shield concealing everything, hidden from outside. At that moment, a fiery beam shot across the sky. It screamed through the air, cold-faced Meng Hao within. He arrived in a blink, gaze sweeping the land. He frowned, nothing unusual. He was about to leave when his eyes flashed. He took out the jade slip. Su Qing's white dot and the two others had vanished. Deep unrest rose in his heart. He looked at the ground and waved his hand. A 30-meter flame dragon roared, shooting down. Dust rose. But one 30-meter area showed no dust, clearly different from surroundings. Zhao was concealed inside, looking pleased. He licked his lips as he prepared to throw himself on her. Suddenly, a boom sounded outside. He frowned, his pupils constricting. Zhu also looked up astonished. She reacted quickly, almost reflexively pulling out a sharp sword and placing it against Su Qing's neck. A young man in a black scholar's robe stood outside. His eyes glowed with killing intent, one finger coated with blood. He touched the shield's surface, explosion shaking everything. He opened his mouth, lightning mist roiling out, slamming into the pink shield. Another explosion rocked earth and sky. The shield collapsed. Su Qing opened her eyes in despair, staring blankly as it disintegrated. Beyond, she saw a person. Killing intent and murder boiled from him. Dark red vines writhed behind his body. He looked like a death immortal emerged from the underworld's yellow springs, filled with rage and insanity. As he approached, a massive wind kicked up, shaking everything. Are you two looking to die? Meng Hao's voice contained fury beyond measure, a roar that filled their ears, transmitted from hell itself. Meng Hao, said Su Qing, smiling. Her smile was beautiful without her usual coldness, a simple smile. Simple and happy. This chapter sponsored by Dante Madat, Rodrigo Ribeiro, Jaja Sukandar and Jacob Keaton. Chapter 151, I'll do it myself. The dark red vines seemed infected by Meng Hao's fury, whipping wildly with a buzzing sound. Dust rose like a fog, obscuring his figure. His black scholar's robe looked faded. Long hair whipped around him, and killing intent rose to the heavens, utterly unlike his usual disposition. Veins of blood filled his eyes. He saw Su Qing's helplessness, her bitterness, her pale beauty, and then the simple smile that broke out on her face. That smile became Meng Hao's everything. Meng Hao loved her, simple, youthful love. After the Reliance sect dissolved, they had been separated by an entire world. Now that they could see each other again, the years seemed to dissolve like a dream. 7 or 8 years ago, you were a young girl who stood beneath the moon and accepted the cosmetic cultivation pill. Now, 7 or 8 years later, here you are, your face pale but smiling. 7 or 8 years ago, I was a scholar standing on Mount Daqing who threw a gourd bottle down the mountain. You will never know the promise I placed in that gourd bottle. 7 or 8 years later, here I stand, my killing intent billowing to the heavens. The road behind me doesn't stretch very far, but it is filled with the bones of cultivators. 7 or 8 years. For mortals, many things can change in 7 or 8 years. For cultivators, 7 or 8 years is not a long time. But then again, cultivators all begin life as mortals. Meng Hao was no longer the scholar he had been 7 or 8 years ago, but the memories from that time still remained. He would never forget those years. He gazed at Su Qing, his smile warm, filled with the joy of reunion. The warmth lasted only until his eyes fell upon the pale, trembling Zhao Shan, his robe hanging loose. Zhao Shan felt Meng Hao's gaze like two sharp swords, piercing his skull, grinding against his bones, stabbing into his qi passageways, all the way to his Dao pillar. His Dao pillar was filled with cracks, a fractured foundation. It shook as if Meng Hao's gaze would shatter it. Zhao Shan's mind reeled in terror. Fellow Taoist senior, I'm Zhao Shan, a conclave disciple of the Black Sieve sect. His words quavered. He wasn't stupid. The pink shield was a treasure that could only be broken by the late Foundation establishment stage. Yet Meng Hao, seemingly at early Foundation establishment, had crushed it. He also saw Meng Hao's frigid killing aura. It was powerfully intense, something that he had never actually seen before in his entire life. Your surname Zhao, Meng Hao said coolly, stepping forward. I just killed another Zhao. His name was Zhao Binwu. As his first step descended, it felt to Zhao Shanha as if Meng Hao had planted his foot on his heart. A searing pain bloomed deep within him. Then Meng Hao's words hit home. A thunderous roar filled his body and he shivered, taking an unconscious step back. Meng Hao's gaze swept over him with crushing pressure. His mind reeled and his trembling body froze. His cultivation base produced no power whatsoever. Meng Hao released the full power of his perfect Dao pillar, an innate ability to emit crushing pressure on any Foundation establishment cultivation base. The perfect foundation struggles with the heavens over spiritual energy, granting it this terrible gift. Zhao Shan's expression flickered as he trembled. Meng Hao took a second step and Zhao Shan's face drained of color. Blood seeped from his mouth, dread flooding his eyes. Fellow Taoist, if you want to talk. His body shook, but Meng Hao took a third step. He stomped down. Zhao Shan's spirit shattered and he coughed up blood. His Dao pillar fractured under the pressure, a deep fissure tearing through it. Fissures spread across his Dao pillar. Zhao Shan's face drained of blood, his eyes anguished. He prepared to fight back when Meng Hao, face expressionless, took a fourth step. The instant the step landed, a roar tore from Zhao Shan. His heart stopped. His organs seized as the cracks consumed his Dao pillar, and it shattered. Zhao Shan's scream tore from his throat. He coughed up blood, his body withering, cold sweat pouring from him. His face turned ashen and his body lurched backward in retreat. Before he could retreat far, Meng Hao took a fifth step, closing the distance. His knee drove upward, not toward Zhao Shan's neck but lower. Pop! Zhao Shan doubled over, screaming. Meng Hao's hand shot up and clamped onto his neck, throttling the cry in his throat. Whimpers died in his throat as his face purpled. Unable to scream, the pain magnified. His eyes bulged with madness, his body convulsing as he attempted to fight back. But he couldn't resist. He was powerless to even struggle, unable to even utter threats. His body shook, filled with pain. He was like a mortal, his Dao pillar destroyed, his cultivation base in ruins. Stop, Zhu Yunqi's voice trembled. She stood next to Su Qing, sword still at her throat, her body shaking, her face pale. To her, Meng Hao was a devilish fiend. She couldn't meet his eyes, regret flooding her heart, but it was too late. She could only beg. You're Meng Hao, right? I've heard Su Qing speak of you and the Reliance sect. This is just a misunderstanding. I want to leave. Her voice shook as she faced him. Despite the sword in her hand, she was the one trembling. I used to be a scholar, he said, turning to Zhu Yunqi while holding Zhao Shan aloft. Once I read an ancient text from the Great Tang. It described thousands of execution methods. One in particular gave me nightmares for days. His eyes glowed with loathing as he raised his other hand and began to methodically crush Zhao Shan's fingers, then his hands, his arms, his shoulders, then the rest of his body. Zhao Shan wanted to lose consciousness but couldn't, not with Meng Hao's presence. The torture lasted the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Finally, Meng Hao twisted. A crack echoed as Zhao Shan's neck snapped. He never uttered a single cry. Such was his death. Meng Hao dropped the body and faced Zhu Yunqi. How do you want to die? I'll let you choose. Her face drained of color, corpse pale. Her body shook and the sword quivered in her hand. Dread flooded her as she stared at him. This was her worst nightmare. Don't force me, she cried. The ground erupted. A dark red vine shot out, wrapping around her body, flinging the sword spinning away. Meng Hao flicked a sleeve, sending it dozens of meters distant. Vines circled Zhu Yunqi with gaping mouths, dripping saliva, awaiting his word to devour her. Don't kill her, Su Qing said quietly, struggling to her feet. I want to do it myself. I've been wanting to cut her tongue out for years. Gritting her teeth, she retrieved the sword. The vines lowered Zhu Yunqui to her. Zhu Yunqui's face crumpled. Junior sister Su, I. Su Qing's face hardened. She lifted the sword and drove it slowly into Zhu Yunqui's mouth. Zhu Yunqui's screams tore out. Su Qing leaned close. You can't fight back, so just close your eyes and enjoy this. I've always wanted to tell you, you are a slut. She twisted the blade. After 10 breaths, Zhu Yunqui stopped struggling. Su Qing thrust the sword deeper. This chapter was sponsored by Abdelkrim Wahesna. Chapter 152, Words Under the Moon with an Old Companion. Su Qing drove the sword through Zhu Yunqui's head. She stepped back pale. Zhu Yunqui fell into death and Su Qing stood silent. Meng Hao walked to her side and sat. The vines dragged Zhu Yunqui's body into the earth, devouring it. The moon hung high. Everything was quiet. No one had felt the ripples of battle magic in this vast, blessed land. First time, he asked. Their shadows merged in the moonlight. She nodded after a moment. The first time I killed, my heart was troubled for a while, he said softly. Images from the Reliance sect drifted through his mind. A breeze carried away the stench of blood. Su Qing's hair curled, brushing his face, or perhaps his heart. After the sect disbanded, she asked, turning to face him. Her pale face was beautiful to him. He remembered escorting her back to the East Mountain years ago, watching her walk away and thinking he wouldn't mind marrying her one. If you want to review Meng Hao's musings about marrying Su Qing, reread Chapter 13, Manly Cao Yang. It was an old memory from an old time. Perhaps it was only the fancy of youth. It was inside the sect, he said with a smile. The blessed land was dangerous, yet he felt at ease as if back at the East Mountain under the moon. Oh, Su Qing's shock showed plainly. Her blank look was beautiful, unlike the cold elder sister Su from his memories. Coldness was unapproachable. Her numb shock made her seem near dear. He laughed. I realize I never knew the real you, elder sister, he said. He was no longer the scholar he'd been. Years had changed him, matured him in both experience and wisdom. Now he could see her coldness was a mask. He glimpsed milky white skin through the rips in her clothes. He had seen women thus before and remained unmoved. But seeing Su Qing now, his eyes betrayed him. Their eyes met. Su Qing looked away, her heart racing, color rising in her cheeks. She gripped her garment, clearly nervous. Meng Hao coughed and slapped his bag of the cosmos, producing clothes which he draped around her shoulders. She said nothing, letting him cover her. She lifted her face to the moon. In its light, Meng Hao could see the delicate beauty of her features, so fragile the wind might break them. You killed someone in the sect. Who? She pretended not to notice his gaze, but her flush deepened. An outer sect disciple surnamed Zhao, he said, recalling that death by the copper mirror. He wanted your immortal's cave. You've got guts, she said, turning from the moon to face him. Killing someone inside the sect. Her earnest words carried her usual coldness, but beneath it Meng Hao saw uncomplicated honesty. Actually, I killed more than one, he said. She stared silently as if seeing him for the first time. After a moment she asked, did you get used to it? I mean, after all that killing, does the guilt still haunt you? Let's talk of something else, he said. He sensed her curiosity, but discussing death beneath the moon with her didn't feel right. She nodded, searching his face. Her coldness masked her true self, but now she seemed unsure what to say. I want to show you something. He tapped his bag of the cosmos, and the cosmetic cultivation pill appeared. He handed it to her with a smile. She gasped. Her eyes locked on the pill as she slowly took it, then closed her eyes. When she opened them, she stared at him for a long moment. This was the third time he'd given her such a pill. She pocketed it quietly. A few years ago I heard the state of Zhao disappeared. He sighed and explained Patriarch Reliance. She listened intently beneath the moon. When he revealed that Patriarch Reliance was a gargantuan, vicious turtle, her mouth fell open in disbelief. To him she was beautiful. He stopped speaking. She looked into his eyes. When their gazes met, she turned away, staring into the distance, her heart racing. A strange feeling stirred, unfamiliar nervousness, an emotion she'd never known. She didn't mind it, she liked it. I've seen Elder Brother Chen a few times, she said, unsure what to discuss. This is an ancient blessed land, but how is your cultivation base at Foundation establishment? A warm smile grew on his face. What of Zhao Shan? He asked. A conclave disciple with deep sect roots, she said, disgust in her eyes. Shameless. He used Foundation establishment pills to coerce female disciples. He studied her. She had completed 9 chi condensation levels. With a pill, she could reach foundation establishment. "They're very valuable," she said, her face grim. "Even in her sect, disciples struggle to obtain one. You need support from the senior generation, special service, or amazing latent talent. When Patriarch Zhen brought me to the Black Civ sect, she ignored me. But my temperament resembled a senior core formation cultivator, so she took me as a disciple and promised me a pill. She left years ago and never returned. Rumor says she's dead." He slapped his bag of the cosmos. 3 foundation establishment pills appeared in his hand, which he held toward her. "I have some," he said. She stared silently. 3 pills. She'd never imagined he'd have even one. 3 would cause riots in the Black Civ sect. "Those," her breathing quickened as she saw the mark. Her eyes widened. "Pill demons work. I have 3 but can get more if you need." He smiled, placing the pills in her hand. To anyone else they'd be priceless. "This is enough. 1 or 2 is plenty." She started to speak, but he closed her hand around the pills. "I don't need them, take them. If you wish, I'll stand guard while you use them. Unless you've been at the 9th chi condensation level for decades, fully prepared and refined, you'd need months. This place isn't safe. I'll break through at the sect." She gave him a serious look. "You can't stay here long, Meng Hao. Be careful. The Black Civ sect has known of this place for ages but couldn't enter until they found an ancient map. With it, they opened the entrance. Once it was a blessed land. Over time, it became a land of death." His eyes shone as he listened. "It involves an ancient, violent spirit. Details are unclear, but rumors abound. I can tell you they gathered rogue cultivators not for treasures, but to build 100 spirits tower. It's not secret to inner sect disciples. Even some outer sect disciples know, and a few rogue cultivators too. The tower is simple, 100 Tao pillars refined together through magical techniques. Its purpose is top secret. I doubt even inner sect disciples know. Among conclave disciples, only 2 or 3 do." That was all she knew. Suddenly, a massive roar echoed across the distance. The ground shook violently. A mysterious gravitational force materialized. Meng Hao's eyes flickered. His Tao pillars trembled as if something were pulling them from his body. Chapter 153, Barring the Way. Meng Hao's expression shifted. His cultivation base rotated, and his perfect Tao pillars expanded to resist. Su Qing remained unmoved until she saw his expression. Then anxiety filled her. The roar affected every rogue cultivator in the blessed land. All dropped to meditate. But their bodies exploded in rapid succession, flesh and blood scattering. Only their Tao pillars remained intact, dragged toward the gravitational force. The Tao pillars converged on a mountain range, where a sunken area held a black tower. The tower was incomplete, with only 3 levels. Tao pillars flew in from all directions and began forming a 4th layer. When the 4th layer finished, the gravitational force weakened and vanished. Over 30 rogue cultivators had died. Fear struck all surviving rogue cultivators. They were trapped, no exits anywhere. Nearly 1,000 Black Civ sect disciples surrounded the tower, sitting cross-legged, chanting strange scriptures. Others rushed from across the blessed land toward this center. Meng Hao's eyes opened, gleaming. He glanced toward the tower. His Tao pillars had stabilized. Perfect Tao pillars resisted the force easily. Seeing his pale face, Su Qing said quickly, "That's where the Black Civ disciples gather. All were ordered to go there and chant some scripture. I know an exit. I've been here twice. I can take you. You can't stay." Meng Hao was silent. He stared toward the tower, then shook his head. "The force barely affects me and I can leave. But you," he met her eyes. "The rogue cultivators now know something's wrong. They'll hunt Black Civ disciples for answers, and if you know this exit, so will others. The sect wouldn't be careless." He looked at her, this elder sister from his memories. "We haven't seen each other in so long. I wanted time alone with you," he said quietly. "But not now. I'll escort you to the rendezvous point. You'll be safer there." "You really can leave?" she asked seriously. "Really?" he replied. She looked at him for a moment as if to speak, but he stepped forward, wrapped his arm around her waist, and flew into the sky. The wind shattered against his power. All she felt was his grip. Her face flushed. Her black hair drifted past his face, fragrant, unforgettable. She said nothing as they sped along. She had been his elder sister, but he no longer showed the weakness of her junior brother. He was a foundation establishment cultivator. The way he'd slaughtered Zhao Shan proved how far he'd come. He breathed her fragrance, she breathed his, safety home. She remembered Mount Daqing and the young scholar she'd carried to the Reliance sect, pressed against her as she held him now. A smile touched her eyes. She looked up at his profile and time slowed. She didn't understand the feeling, but peace filled her. For a moment, Meng Hao seemed like her younger brother again. "You grew up," she said suddenly, uncertain why. Meng Hao paused and smiled wryly. Her cold, indifferent expression was clearly an act. "You're a few years older than me," he said, clearing his throat. 5 years, she said seriously. "I'm your elder sister." No argument there. Seeing her eyes widen, he laughed. Okay, you're my elder sister." An incense stick's time passed. 8 beams of light appeared ahead. Before they could pass, the cultivators noticed them. Qi condensation, a Black Civ sect disciple. What we've been looking for. All were early Foundation establishment stage, eyes glittering with malice as they fixed on Su Qing and Meng Hao. A blue-robed man fixed Meng Hao coldly. "Fellow Taoist, hand over the woman, now." His tone promised violence if refused. All had hostile eyes. The gravitational force had terrified them, so they hunted lone Black Civ disciples for information. Finding one, they wouldn't release her. Su Qing's breathing quickened. She gripped Meng Hao's robes. These 8 cultivators seemed impossibly powerful to her. Against one, she had no chance. "Screw off," he said coldly, flying straight at them. Su Qing's anxiety spiked. She'd seen him dispatch Zhao Shanhe but 8 opponents. Her worry was justified. The blue-robed man laughed, killing intent flashing. Meng Hao was early Foundation establishment like himself, and he had 7 allies. 1 man against 8 seemed absurd, yet Meng Hao dared such arrogance. The 7 cultivators smirked, overconfidence. But as the blue-robed man raised his hand and the others drew weapons, Meng Hao opened his mouth. Lightning mist exploded, enveloping them instantly. Dark red vines erupted from the earth, screaming upward into the mist. Miserable shrieks echoed out death cries. Meng Hao's expression remained unchanged as he flew on, Su Qing in his arms. The lightning captured their bags of holding and handed them to him. The vines withdrew. The 8 had vanished. Su Qing gasped. Meng Hao had become extraordinary. He flew at high speed toward the tower. Along the way, they encountered lone cultivators, or groups of 3 to 5. In total, 10 early Foundation establishment cultivators. None slowed Meng Hao. Soon the rendezvous point was close. Behind Meng Hao appeared 2 beams, mid-Foundation establishment power, but ahead appeared another beam, an old man, the same man who'd entered with Meng Hao at the tower's start, late Foundation establishment stage. He stopped hundreds of meters ahead, his cold gaze fixed on Su Qing. "Fellow Taoist, I've been waiting to find a Black Civ disciple. Hand the woman to me." The 2 mid-Foundation establishment cultivators closed in from behind. Meng Hao and Su Qing were surrounded. The 2 were middle-aged, their eyes grim, radiating cold, killing intent, clearly vicious. "What do you want?" Meng Hao asked coldly. "I can tell you." Su Qing looked pale against his chest. Without him, rogue cultivators would have captured her. She'd seen what became of Black Civ disciples they interrogated. But rogue cultivators guard information jealously. It could save their own lives. Sharing meant sacrificing themselves. "I don't trust words," the old man said calmly. "Only results." His late Foundation establishment power emanated down, crushing pressure descending on Meng Hao. Chapter 154, To Each His Own Path. Meng Hao didn't answer. He smiled down at Su Qing and retreated. The old man snorted and shot forward. His speed was incredible, displaying full late Foundation establishment power. 8 ripples spread as he flew. 8 Tao pillars within his body. Meng Hao reached the 2 mid-Foundation establishment cultivators. They laughed. One flashed incantation gestures. 100 ice blades appeared, spinning into a whirlwind that shot toward him, each blade filled with early Foundation establishment power. The other slapped his bag to produce 5 black, buzzing wasps, head-sized with red stingers. "Overestimate yourself," the ice blade man said. The whirlwind screamed toward Meng Hao. He waved his left hand while holding Su Qing with his right. An enormous flame dragon appeared, along with a wind blade. Shockingly, the dragon was not pure red but streaked with gold. The sublime spirit scripture had transformed it into a golden dragon. The wind blade fused with the dragon, expanding it to 300 meters. 2 bulges erupted from its sides, wings. This was a flying rain dragon, awakened when the rock had illuminated that legacy within Meng Hao. A flame sea accompanied the dragon, born from his perfect Tao pillar. Mid-Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't resist it. Boom! The ice blade whirlwind shattered instantly, consumed by the flame sea. The flying rain dragon roared. The two cultivators retreated in shock. In a breath, the dragon lunged forward and consumed one in a single bite. A scream tore out as his body transformed to ash. All this happened in an instant. The old man and the wasp master had no time to react. Face expressionless, Meng Hao turned toward the 5 buzzing wasps. They shot at him, then trembled violently. They'd sensed something terrifying and retreated instantly, something their master had never seen. As his face contorted in shock, laughing, crying demon faces appeared in Meng Hao's eyes, one clear, one blurry, radiating a bizarre aura. The wasps shrieked and trembled violently, as if losing the ability to fly. Suddenly, they turned and savagely attacked each other. Meng Hao strode through the wasps, sliced his finger, and blood covered it. A bloody aura engulfed the area. When it faded, he stood before the man, his finger pressed between the man's eyebrows. The man convulsed, his eyes bulged, his body withered. When Meng Hao withdrew, the man was nothing but blood pooling on the ground. He turned to the old man. Only breaths had passed, and 2 mid-foundation establishment cultivators were obliterated. His methods were vicious, his techniques strange. The old man felt sudden cold seeping through his body. Now he understood why Zai Jai had watched Meng Hao on the Feng Shui compass and tried to bait out his abilities. Zai Jai knew something about Meng Hao. "Continue," Meng Hao asked calmly, his finger still glowing bloody light. The old man said nothing. He could have killed those 2 mid-foundation establishment cultivators, but not like that, not so easily. Fear filled him, especially seeing Meng Hao's utter lack of it. He clasped hands in salute and stepped back, clearing the path. "I am Su Yaodao one. Su Yaodao's name in Chinese is Chinese letter Xiaodao. Su is a common family name. Yu means have. Dao is the same Dao as the Dao, which also means way or path. I apologize for today. We will meet again." His tone carried weight. Meng Hao nodded. The blood glow faded as he shot into the distance. Su Qing was shocked by his power. She hesitated. "What? Your real cultivation base?" "Peak early foundation establishment," he said with a smile. He seemed a different person than the one who just fought. His experiences had transformed him. But that change was only toward enemies. With friends, he remained as scholarly as ever. His ruthless killing stemmed partly from the poison in him. Someone infected with the 3-colored resurrection lily grew increasingly cruel until they became the flower itself. "How can you kill mid-foundation establishment cultivators?" she asked. "Many reasons," he said simply. "Early foundation establishment, yes, but I match late foundation establishment." Soon they reached a mountain. From the peak, Meng Hao could see the man-made area and the black tower under construction. Nearly 1,000 Black Civ disciples sat cross-legged around it, chanting faintly. He couldn't make out the words. "I can't go closer," he said, looking from the tower to her. "No rogue cultivators here, you're safe. Take this invisibility talisman. You'll use it once you reach foundation establishment." He handed it to her. She took it. Meng Hao's robe still draped her, too large but beautiful on her. She looked at him as if to speak, then leaned forward and embraced him lightly. Her head rested against his chest, hearing his heartbeat. Not a passionate embrace, but a sister to a brother, family. Dawn approached. Meng Hao watched her beautiful hair. It seemed to know he was looking at it, or the wind knew. It floated up gently, caressing his face. Long silence, then she stepped back and looked into his eyes. "Be careful," she said. "Leave this place soon." She turned, stepped onto a flying sword, and shot down the mountain. After gliding through the air, she entered a forest at the base. When she emerged, Meng Hao's clothes were gone, replaced with a fresh Black Civ sect robe. Meng Hao watched her vanish. A sense of parting filled him. For a moment, he was back at the Reliance sect's dissolution. But he was no longer a chi condensation cultivator. He had a perfect foundation, no longer a child but a man. Maturity taught him that all have the right to their own path. His path was his alone to walk. Others' paths might cross his, that was well, but now he walked alone, unless he became powerful enough to forge his own road, change everything. The alternative was a life of sighing. He watched Su Qing reach the rendezvous point. Determination blazed in his eyes. He lifted his head to the sky, where the rising sun and moon nearly overlapped. His eyes glowed. "While I'm here, I might as well investigate. If the classic of time exists, I can use the copper mirror and spring and autumn trees to forge a treasure of time. And my thunderclap leaf. Lu Tao is here. I might learn more." He turned and shot upward, following the sun and moon's position as his guide. He flew for a time. A boom filled the air, the gravitational force again. This time he watched an early foundation establishment cultivator fail to resist. His body exploded. His Tao pillar flew free. The force is strengthening. Soon I won't resist it. He frowned, suppressing his Tao pillars, trembling, flying as fast as possible. Soon sun and moon would separate. But now Meng Hao knew his direction. He was getting close. This chapter was sponsored by Andy Zhang, Yuqiang HSU, Engia Nguyen, Man Tran and Matthew Rishton. Chapter 155, The Last Person. 4 hours passed. The gravitational force appeared once more as Meng Hao flew past mountains. This place was strange. The sun blazed above, but if you looked closely, a faint moon shape showed within it. In another 2 hours, they'd separate. After another hour's travel, a vast plain appeared ahead. Tall grass, waist-high, swayed like a sea. Only wind whispered. Within the plain was one bare area. 3 people sat cross-legged there. 2 women, 1 man. The man was middle-aged, gray-robed, expressionless with eyes closed in meditation. An icy air surrounded him, late foundation establishment stage. One of the 3 who'd come on the violet feng shui compass. 1 woman was middle-aged, somewhat overweight, plain-featured, farm girl looks. Another of those 3 late foundation establishment cultivators. Impatience crossed her face as she looked at the third person, a veiled woman whose features were obscured in shadow. Did you invite me here to wait? I doubt our destination is as dangerous as a dragon's or tiger's lair. Isn't fellow Taoist Sima and I sufficient? She laughed coldly. The cold man's eyes opened, glowing as he looked at the veiled woman. Fellow Taoist Li, wait a moment longer, the veiled woman said lightly. I've invited 5. If they don't arrive, we shouldn't proceed. The 3 of us alone have small chances of success. The Li woman snorted, but said nothing more. A bit longer, said the veiled woman. The sun and moon separate in 2 hours. If they've not arrived by then, we attempt alone. An hour passed. A colorful beam appeared with a streak of violet. The approaching figure wore violet robes. A handsome young man arrived within breaths, clearly someone important. He landed, swept his eyes over the 3, smiled, and cupped hands in greeting. I'm late, said Zai 1. Zai appeared in chapter 145, an ancient mountain path, as well as chapter 146. Forgive me, fellow Taoists, I kept you waiting. Junior Sister Han, conclave disciple Zai of the Black Siv sect. He revealed her identity with a smirk. The Li woman frowned and stood to salute. The cold man merely nodded. The veiled woman frowned as the 2 looked at her. She laughed lightly and removed her veil. Her face was beautiful and delicate, skin lustrous as jade. Everything brightened because of her. Hanbei too. Hanbei appeared previously in chapter 141. The cosmetic cultivation pill appears again. Chapter 143. Ghost in the night. Chapter 146. This is ultimate vexation. Greets you all, she said. I didn't want to reveal myself for personal reasons, but elder brother Zai decided otherwise, so I'm more open now. This was Hanbei. Her enchanting beauty and smile made irritation impossible. Zai smiled. I didn't know you had secrets, junior sister. I was hasty. It's fine, she replied with a smile. Given sect activities here, I was worried revealing myself would cause misunderstanding. With elder brother Zai, I have nothing to worry about. Success is more likely now. The Li woman pondered. The gray-robed man frowned. Her words carried hidden barbs. Zai started to speak, then turned his head. Everyone looked except the gray-robed man. A colorful beam approached with a roaring wind that whipped the grass. An old man appeared, Su Yaodo. He strode to them, eyes flashing. He glanced about, then fixed his gaze on Hanbei. So the invitation was from you. Explain what the Black Siv sect is doing here. Hanbei smiled. With your special technique, our mission becomes easier. Rest assured, I'll explain soon. The Li woman quickly greeted Su Yaodo with clasped hands. Zai smiled and did the same. The gray-robed man nodded. He'd barely acknowledged anyone. Everyone here? Zai asked with a smile. There's one more, the Li woman said, smiling at Zai. Oh, his eyes narrowed. No other late foundation establishment rogue cultivators existed. Could Hanbei have invited another Black Siv disciple? He looked at her. Who's this last person? Care to explain? The Li woman chimed in. I want to know too. If important, I'll befriend them. If not, why wait? The gray-robed man closed his eyes, ignoring the conversation. Su Yaodo stood thoughtfully, eyes flickering. Hanbei was silent, then said, I don't know either, like how I didn't know your identities at first. My guess is, while he's not important now, we won't succeed without him. With him, success increases 30%. Her words were calm but iron-willed. "Oh," said Zai. His interest was now piqued. "And why does junior sister Han attach such importance to this person?" The Li woman laughed coldly, her face filled with disdain, clearly feeling that Han Bei was exaggerating. She didn't believe that a foundation establishment cultivator could possibly be so useful. A core formation stage cultivator would have been a different matter, but it was fundamentally impossible for such a person to join them. "Could this person be a pseudo-core cultivator?" asked the Li woman with a sneer. "Fellow Taoist Han, you should really be careful. There are many people in the world who fish for fame and compliments." It wasn't that she specifically didn't like Han Bei. Actually, she hated all beautiful women. "I'm truly not sure if this person is at the pseudo-core stage or not," Han Bei replied calmly, giving the Li woman a level look. "In any case, his is definitely extraordinary. Of that you can be certain." The Li woman said nothing. Zai suddenly lifted his head toward the horizon, as did Su Yaodou, all eyes fixed on the beam of light shooting toward them. "Meng Hao," he whistled through the air, eyes sweeping the land. He spotted the bare patch, the sun and moon shining above it and the 5 figures. He landed and walked over. His expression was calm. Su Yaodou's face flickered. Han Bei's eyes brightened, lips spreading into a smile. Zai's expression hardened as he studied Meng Hao. "Greetings, fellow Taoists," Meng Hao said coolly. "I'm delayed." He scanned the group, his gaze lingering on Han Bei. "Early foundation establishment," the Li woman frowned. A haughty disdain filled her face. "This is the essential person. She values an early foundation cultivator. Laughable. Did this junior generation infant stumble here by accident?" Meng Hao said nothing. "I'm curious too," Zai said with a smile. A flicker crossed his eyes. The Li woman's arrogance swelled. "An early foundation cultivator among us is demeaning. Han Bei recommended him, but I'll test him myself." She walked toward Meng Hao. "Show all your power," she said. "Survive one strike and I'll accept you're qualified. Fail and the Black Civ sect will kill you anyway. Death ends your troubles." She reached Meng Hao and lifted her hand. Orange light blinded her vision, transforming into a pink whip. It cracked through the air. Chapter 156, Fear of Meng Hao. Meng Hao's expression remained calm. No one interfered. The gray-robed man meditated, eyes closed. Su Yaodou knew Meng Hao's abilities, so did nothing. Han Bei had guesses about his power but wasn't certain. She had secret information that fueled conjecture. This was a good chance to observe him. She wanted to caution the Li woman, but would she listen? The woman was late foundation establishment in power, but weakest in intellect. Her stage came from accumulated ancestral fortune. Zai had orchestrated this and watched from the side, smiling. He was curious why the sect elders had ordered him to watch Meng Hao. He'd paid little attention at first, but meeting Meng Hao again, he wanted to test him. All had their own schemes. Meng Hao glanced them over, he grasped their motivations well enough. He watched the Li woman approach, her whip whistling. His face was blank. He didn't retreat, he took 3 steps forward. He lifted his right hand and struck. His palm erupted with a fierce wind that whipped the grass. He struck 5 times without pause, the 19 clear sky strikes acquired from the violet-robed young man through his vines. The manual was incomplete, but these 5 were whole. Each strike carried full perfect Tao pillar power. After 5 strikes, an enormous palm appeared. It shot forward with wind swirling. Han Bei and Zai's faces changed. They recognized it instantly, a Black Civ sect technique no outsider should know. Yet Meng Hao used it before them. Their hearts trembled. The Li woman had late foundation establishment stage power with only 7 Tao pillars. They were fractured, not cracked. She expected her whip to slice the palm like hot knife through butter, then fall upon Meng Hao's body, severing tendons and crushing bone. Boom! An explosion, but not Meng Hao's palm, hers. The whip shattered on contact, her face fell. Disbelief flooded her features. How had she miscalculated? Her late foundation establishment whip had failed utterly. His palm exceeded her wildest imagining. Dread filled her eyes. The palm destroyed the whip instantly and shot forward with shocking power and gale-force wind. The Li woman's disdain evaporated. Danger loomed. She retreated, raising her hand as a small shield materialized. She bit her tongue, spat blood from her base, and the shield absorbed it, spinning outward to meet the palm. Another explosion. The shield shook, tossed backward, barely resisting. Meng Hao strode forward. His spiritual sense, far superior to any late foundation establishment cultivator, exploded out, crushing the Li woman. She screamed. A sword stabbed through her brain, her spiritual sense shattered. She coughed blood and staggered back. Meng Hao reached the shield. He waved his hand, wrapped the palm around it, dragged it to him. His spiritual sense erased the branding mark. He stored it. The woman retreated at top speed, coughing blood, pale, her head buzzing. After a dozen meters, she stopped and stared up at him, astonished. You, her scalp numbed. Meng Hao couldn't be early Foundation establishment. She'd never seen such battle power from that stage, never such terrifying spiritual sense. Not even a flawless Foundation could do this. This arc contains 19 strikes total, Meng Hao said coolly, unmoved. He didn't mention the shield he'd taken. The Li woman's breath caught. Her face paled further. She trembled. That attack had shattered her Dao pillars, forced blood from her mouth, and required her treasure. If he'd used more than 5 strikes, her treasure couldn't have resisted. Her Dao pillars would have shattered. Your cultivation base is unfathomable, she said, her voice strained. I was crude. Don't take offense. Keep my Cloud Peak shield as apology. She clasped hands and bowed deeply, eyes filled with dread. Su Yaodao's gaze fixed on Meng Hao. He was relieved he hadn't attacked earlier. Meng Hao wasn't early Foundation establishment. If he was, that was exponentially more terrifying. The gray-robed man's eyes flickered open and fixed on Meng Hao. He nodded. Henbei looked at Meng Hao thoughtfully, a light smile appearing. Fellow Taoist Meng, you're punctual. Our chances of acquiring the Classic of Time have increased 30%. Zai Jai laughed and said nothing. He didn't mention the clear sky strikes. Fear of Meng Hao now lived in his heart. Meng Hao was not to be provoked lightly. He'd only seen a fraction of Meng Hao's power, his spiritual sense, and likely much more. Whenever dealing with unknowns, he was careful. Only after understanding them completely would he strike like lightning. Forget the Classic a moment, Meng Hao said calmly. He looked at Henbei. I came here at your request. Your sect controls this place. If I help you get the Classic, will you rip out my Dao pillars? Henbei and Zai Jai's eyes flashed. Su Yaodao laughed grimly before they could respond. Fellow Taoist Meng doesn't waste time. I'm curious too. Explain yourselves. I want to know the answer, said the gray-robed man. His eyes flashed coldly as he fixed on Henbei and Zai Jai. The Li woman moved back a few paces, concerned for her own safety, effectively encircling Henbei and Zai Jai. Henbei smiled. Don't press us on sect matters. I can't speak of it. Even if I did, you wouldn't believe me. It's secret. I'm only a conclave disciple, not fully informed. But I take responsibility for your safety here. She waved her hand. 4 jade slips flew out. Inside is the exact method to exit this place. Follow it and leave safely. Several exits exist. Read the slip, check where they lead, then you'll understand why I chose this rendezvous point. She smiled, earnest as always. Meng Hao's spiritual sense swept the jade slip. He looked around. 3 exits according to the slip. One was where they stood. He flashed the incantation method and felt teleportation power rise beneath his feet, but didn't bind it. 4 spirit seal insects, Henbei said. Test them. Send spiritual sense through them and you'll confirm my words. She waved her hand. 4 white thumb-sized insects flew out. Su Yaodao grabbed one, examined it, and nodded. He branded it with spiritual sense, used the jade slips method, and sent it down into the earth. It vanished. The Li woman did the same. The gray-robed man ignored the insects and slapped his bag to produce a scorpion instead. I believe you, fellow Taoist Han, Meng Hao said. He selected an insect and began the incantation, sending it through the exit using the jade slips method. But with the insect, he sent a rattan vine hidden in the earth. From the insect, he caught an impression of another distant location, somewhere far away. But then he caught intense danger from the vine. His eyes narrowed. The vine died almost instantly. As it did, it sent a final image, an enormous bronze cauldron, tens of thousands of meters tall, incredibly imposing. Chapter 157, a cauldron with a square exterior. The image vanished. Meng Hao's expression remained calm. He looked at the others. Their faces hadn't changed. They seemed to accept Henbei's explanation. They didn't see the cauldron, Meng Hao thought. His blood-branded vines were beginning to emit a faint demonic aura. Henbei smiled. Now you can rest assured. Accompany me to the Classic of Time's location. If we acquire it, everyone gets a copy. She bowed and shot into the air, flying across the plain. Zai Jai flew second, then Su Yaodao and the Li woman. Meng Hao and the gray-robed man were last, all 6 becoming beams of light through the sky. Silent travel, each lost in thought. Meng Hao's face was blank, but his mind held the bronze cauldron's image. He was 70 to 80% certain. The exit was Henbei's creation, not real. He wasn't sure she could fool the others, but his good luck charm reassured him. The classic of time's location would be extraordinary. Hanbei wouldn't otherwise invest so much. How does Hanbei know of it? He wondered, watching her figure ahead. Su Yaodao suddenly spoke, voicing what Meng Hao was thinking. How did you learn of the classic? How did you get the first volume? Hanbei looked back, smiling. I'll explain when we arrive. They reached the plain's edge. The roar sounded again, far away, but it shook everyone except Hanbei and Zai Jai. Late Foundation establishment cultivators rotated their bases against the gravitational force. When it faded, their faces were paler. Hanbei's face showed apology, but she said nothing. She raised her hand, pushing it downward. Wind sprang up, sweeping the land. She took a deep breath and slapped her bag of holding. A jade bottle appeared. Blue-green, and her expression darkened. She tossed it. It landed and cracks spread rapidly. Blue liquid seeped out, emitting a faintly bitter aura. The gray-robed man's eyes narrowed. Blue Heaven Elixir. The bottle split. Blue liquid expanded into a mist covering 300 meters. The grass vanished like illusion. The earth turned pitch black, cursed, ancient, millennial. Fellow Taoist Sima experienced indeed. You're right, Blue Heaven Elixir. One drop cost countless trials, it pierces illusions. She smiled at him, then glanced at the others. We stand above an ancient portal to a sealed zone. The Black Civ sect discovered this blessed land centuries ago, but an ancestor of my clan actually found it first. Because of it, the Black Civ sect forced my ancestor to join, creating the Han bloodline there. The map I inherited came from my uncle's years of research. He refined his blood into a map using secret magic. Before he became the map, he told me. She paused, then continued. This land was once ruled by a Han clan patriarch who became one with the Tao and dissipated. But his bloodline connection remains, and descendants feel it. I don't know what the Black Civ plots, but my uncle revealed that because of his connection, he knew the Han clan's secret, the 3-volume time magic which produces a time-ruining treasure. It sucks away lifespans, requiring a spring and autumn tree as its base. Even in ancient times, such treasures were rare, now lost, if it exists, only here. I inherited the first volume from my clan. I'll combine all 3 volumes and refine the treasure. It's personal. I don't want other Han members knowing, nor the Black Civ sect prying. That's why I invited you. Elder Brother Zai is here from a prior agreement. All had their own opinions on truth versus lies. How she'd gathered this group gave clues. Meng Hao's eyes swept the group, and he laughed inwardly. Everyone else thinking differently. None but me seemed truly listening. She knows something's off. But the classic likely exists. I have the spring and autumn tree, easy to duplicate with my copper mirror. If I learn the technique, my problem's solved. I need caution. If wrong, I use the good luck charm to escape. He made his decision. Hanbei flashed an incantation to open the portal beneath them. An archaic roar sounded, as if a sleeping beast awakened. A glittering light appeared, enveloping 300 meters. The light appeared. Hanbei looked skyward as if calculating. Then she shot down into the portal. Zai Jai followed with a slight smile, then Su Yaodao and the others. Meng Hao's spiritual sense confirmed it was only a teleportation portal. After everyone else blurred away, he followed. Light flickered and faded. All vanished. They reappeared. The sky matched the blessed lands. The earth was cracked. Far ahead, an object appeared. Meng Hao's eyes flashed, then returned to normal. An enormous bronze cauldron. Tens of thousands of meters tall, supporting the sky. Ancient, primitive, ancient existing. Boundless might radiated, causing all to feel intense fear, even Hanbei. Thoughts flooded each mind. Cauldrons are nation vessels, forged only by destinies chosen. Such a fearsome cauldron. A true treasure. Who dares forge such a heavenly vessel? Its archaic design is matchless, tens of thousands of years old, forged by an ancient almighty being. All panted, gazing. The gray-robed man gasped. Strange light flickered in his eyes. Zai Jai's eyes narrowed. It took time to regain composure. Meng Hao recognized it instantly, the same cauldron from the vine's final image. Looking around, everything matched what he'd seen in the supposed exit. He laughed coldly inwardly, his expression unchanged. He furtively checked the good luck charm, still working. He admired patriarch reliance. This charm was valuable and it worked here. Reassured, he looked at the massive cauldron again. Awe filled him. Even knowing it existed, standing before it made him feel like an insect. The cauldron is cracked, Su Yaodao sighed. A huge crack ran through it, as if trying to split it, yet failing. Others guessed some weapon caused it. But Meng Hao felt different, not a magical item. He looked skyward and recalled tribulation lightning's touch. The crack felt the same, caused by tribulation lightning. Anyone who possessed and wielded this cauldron would shake the cultivation world, Zai said softly, passionately. This chapter was sponsored by Audiobook. Chapter 158, Coexist with Jai. Hanbei took a deep breath, excitement flashing across her face. Her right hand lifted, and an ancient crescent-shaped jade flew out. Deep green, almost black, extraordinarily shaped, not meant for mortal hands but for an ancient tomb. Its color came from absorbing sinister death aura. The jade shot forward, emitting a bright glow that covered everything. It rippled toward the cauldron's crack and entered it. The final 2 volumes are here. Hanbei flew forward, followed by Zai, the Li woman, Su Yaodou, and the gray-robed man. Meng Hao followed. 6 beams of light shot ahead, growing closer to the enormous cauldron. As they neared, enormous pressure spread from it, growing stronger. They neared the gigantic crack, an enormous canyon on the cauldron's surface. They stopped before it. Mist floated thin but all-encompassing, blackness within. Zai slapped his bag. A green light solidified into a furry beast. It flashed toward the crack. The instant it touched the mist, it cried out, its body torn to pieces. Caution filled all hearts. Only someone with incredible spiritual sense can pierce the mist and heal this crack, Hanbei said. Then we enter. She looked skyward as if calculating, then turned to Meng Hao. Su Yaodou's gaze followed. Meng Hao's battle with the Li woman had impressed him deeply. His spiritual sense was intense. Fellow Taoist hand, surely you jest, Meng Hao said. This cauldron's ancient, its aura is beyond ordinary. I can't touch that crack. You misunderstand, she said hastily. I know this cauldron's untouchable. I have a family heirloom that erases cracks, but it needs spiritual sense guidance to heal. She slapped her bag, producing a small fan with 3 feathers covered in magical symbols. Only one person can use it and your spiritual sense is strongest. I ask your help. Inside, you won't be needed elsewhere. When you push this fan's spirit with spiritual sense, it releases power far beyond our bases. The Han clan forged it for this place. Meng Hao looked calmly at the fan for a moment and then lifted his hand. The fan flew toward him. He examined it for a moment but didn't touch it at first. Eventually, he gave a slight nod. Seeing him agree, Hanbei let out a sigh of relief. She then moved off to the side, away from Meng Hao, in order to prevent any sort of misunderstanding. His face was blank as he released his spiritual sense. As it emanated out, Hanbei and the others concentrated, sensing the immense power and comparing it to their own. All of them grew even more cautious. Meng Hao sent his spiritual sense into the fan to examine it. Sure enough, it was branded, linking it to Hanbei. Meng Hao lifted his head up to look at the crack in the enormous cauldron. A moment later, he lifted his hand and thrust it forward. The fan suddenly erupted into flame. The 3 feathers began to wriggle in a bizarre fashion. A whirlwind sprung into being around Meng Hao. His hand thrust forward and the whirlwind shot at the mist. It slammed with a boom. The mist roiled. At first they seemed to cancel, but the whirlwind weakened, fading. The crack's erasable but draining, Meng Hao said, watching the mist rebuild itself. He paused, then lifted his right hand and released more spiritual sense. The fan's flames rose, now filled with 2 colors. The onlookers' pupils contracted. Meng Hao's power seemed double their own. Shock rippled through them, especially Hanbei, whose eyes filled with fear. The fan seemed to suck Meng Hao's spiritual sense eagerly. He proceeded cautiously. If control weakened, he'd sever the connection instantly. The whirlwind appeared again, more powerful. Meng Hao's figure was barely visible within screaming winds. The onlookers saw him waving his hand. The fan's first feather turned to ash. The second fell apart. Wind grew stronger, roaring. It slammed the mist and the 3rd feather became flaming ash. The fan disintegrated. Hanbei's heart sank then hardened. Success or failure now. Boom! A massive explosion. The whirlwind collided with the mist, eating at each other, and suddenly a gap appeared. At the same time, sinister coldness erupted from the cauldron, blasting across the group. A door that had been sealed for ages opened. An ancient aura burst out. Within the time coldness existed memories that swept through all 6. Suddenly, visions appeared, countless ages ago. An enormous bronze cauldron floated above Earth under a red sky. Astonishing lightning descended, constantly slashing, trying to crush it. But the cauldron didn't yield. It rose amid lightning's roar. A vortex appeared in the red sky, beyond which another world vaguely showed. The cauldron wished to defy the heavens and pass through. Below, hundreds of thousands of figures prostrated, chanting together. Their voices merged and echoed. The sound recalled the Black Civ sect disciples chanting. It sounded similar, though the words were unclear. A voice boomed from the cauldron. You wish to replace the starry sky, cover my eyes with heaven's dome. The world tree wouldn't submit, it destroyed itself in the stars. My master sleeps, but can he exist under the same sky as Jai? Lightning fell constantly, seeking to obliterate the cauldron. The vision faded for all but Meng Hao. They exchanged shaken looks. Meng Hao was closer and met the time wind first. His vision continued. The cauldron rose. Lightning from the red sky merged together, countless bolts forming a gigantic spear, a tooth surrounded by lightning fields shooting down. A boom, the cauldron trembled, a massive crack split through it. It rose no more but fell, slamming the ground. Another voice sounded, sighing. You won't let me take this cauldron, then. I'll rest here forever, waiting for your fall. The vision faded from Meng Hao's eyes. He took a deep breath and lifted his head. The mist and crack were disappearing. Anxiety crossed Han Bei's face. Without hesitation, she shot toward the crack. The rest followed silently, eyes flickering. Meng Hao flew with them at top speed toward the crack. As he entered, his copper mirror grew hot in his bag of the cosmos. No time to examine it. Meng Hao entered a world of lightning and thunder. The cauldron's interior was tens of thousands of meters, filled with crashing lightning like a river. The light was blinding as sunlight. No time to gaze. A blood-curdling scream rose from their midst. The Li woman was last to enter. Instantly, a lightning bolt descended at incredible speed. It slammed into her. She screamed as her body turned to flying ash. Even her bag of holding incinerated. Chapter 159, Square Without, Round Within, A Trend of the Heavens. It happened so fast Su Yaodao's face flickered. The gray-robed man's eyes narrowed and he slapped his bag. A wooden slip appeared. It emitted bluish light, lightning repelling. The light circled him and he stepped away, distancing himself from others. Zai Jai's face flickered. A wooden statue appeared in his hand, 3 heads, 6 arms. It transformed into soft glowing light that circulated around him. Hanbei reacted faster than both. A 3-colored lotus throne appeared, obviously lightning repelling. Only Su Yaodao and Meng Hao lacked such objects. Su Yaodao let out a cold laugh and unwrapped a blue treasure shaped like a pill. It emitted a bluish-green shield. Meng Hao laughed grimly. These 3 had obviously colluded, all with lightning-repelling treasures. Only he and the Li woman had come unprepared. Nice move, fellow Taoist Han, he said coolly, eyes sweeping them. I didn't expect so much lightning, Hanbei said lightly. Fellow Taoist Meng, if you lack protection, use this anti-lightning leaf. Moderately effective but better than nothing. A translucent leaf appeared in her hand. She'd been watching him since he entered the cauldron. Her eyes had flickered then. Zai Jai and the 2 men watched Meng Hao, their eyes filled with unanswered questions. Lightning crackled above, thunder boomed. Powerful, astonishing, each bolt fierce enough to strike late Foundation establishment stage. Suddenly a bolt slammed down. Explosion. Lightning dissipated into countless arcs. I have no lightning-repelling item but a lightning-attracting technique, Meng Hao said calmly. Lightning mist appeared around him, congealing into the flag. Electricity swirled around it, including heavenly tribulation strands, clearly extraordinary. Nearby lightning seemed pulled down. If he called all the lightning-repelling items wouldn't matter. All would turn to dust like the Li woman. Almost instantly, Meng Hao sucked the flag back into his mouth. Lightning dispersed. But all knew, if the flag remained, it would call lightning and kill them. Zai Jai's expression flickered. The gray-robed man's eyes narrowed. Su Yaodao gasped and stepped back. Fear of Meng Hao filled their eyes. Danger flooded their heads. Hearts pounded. Unsightly expressions filled their faces. Zai Jai's voice was grim. Fellow Taoist, you're excessive. Vigilance filled him as he focused on Meng Hao. Su Yaodao had already experienced Meng Hao's ferocity twice. Now he stared with complicated looks, saying nothing. He sighed inwardly. Meng Hao was no weaker than core formation eccentrics. Without a lightning item, he turned the tables. Suddenly everyone was at disadvantage. What's the meaning of this? The gray-robed man asked, staring at Meng Hao. Nothing, Meng Hao said. Just reminding you that I can call lightning anytime. He stood calmly, seemingly ready to pull his treasure if any bolt headed his way. Hanbei said nothing for breaths. Then a genial smile appeared. I was joking, fellow Taoist Meng. Of course I can help you repel lightning. She waved her hand and a leaf fell from the lotus throne. She started to hand it when he laughed and approached. Her face fell. Fear of his methods flooded her, and seeing him approach, she stepped back. He'd already reached her side. "No need for trouble, fellow Taoist Han," he said coolly. Lightning crackled above. "Let's use your throne together. Easier, no? Or are you unwilling?" Conflict crossed her face. The gray-robed man nodded. "That's best," he said. "I agree," Su Yao said, relief flooding him. Zai Jai's eyes sparkled. He didn't disagree. Hanbei hesitated, then gave a bitter smile. "If that's your requirement, how could I refuse?" She gritted her teeth, opened the lotus throne shield, and allowed Meng Hao to enter. With Meng Hao beside Hanbei and the shield, the three men felt more at ease. His threat had been beyond anything they'd anticipated. Even remembering it made their hair stand on end. Meng Hao was truly vicious. Hanbei looked at him deeply with a forced smile. She bowed slightly and began moving forward. Meng Hao followed, face calm. Zai Jai and the others trailed. 5 people proceeded through lightning torrents. Roaring filled the air. Lightning fell, crashing ground, sparks rippling everywhere. The lightning-repelling items were clearly extraordinary. All seemed completely safe. Meng Hao's eyes swept them, and he laughed coldly inwardly. These items were beyond Foundation establishment cultivator level. Each had backing from someone extremely powerful who enabled their entry. Zai Jai has the Black Civ sect. The gray-robed man and Su Yaodao aren't ordinary rogue cultivators. They have powerful connections, he thought. As they proceeded, lightning grew more intense. Roaring never stopped. Meng Hao had seen tribulation lightning, but this seemed more formidable. "This place isn't for Foundation establishment cultivators. One bolt could eradicate any of us." Yet none seemed concerned. They knew what they'd face. "I was targeted by tribulation lightning because my perfect Tao pillar shouldn't exist. This cauldron, the heaven spirit, is furious, wanting to obliterate it more than me." Meng Hao looked ahead. The lightning blinded eyes and made examining surroundings impossible. Forward was the only option. No one spoke. An hour passed. They were further in. Lightning intensity lessened. They could see better. What lay ahead made all breathe heavily. Su Yao gasped. "That," his face showed shock. Zai Jai's eyes glittered and he panted. The gray-robed man's eyes shone, staring ahead. Hanbei's eyes brightened. 9 enormous statues filled the cauldron's center. Each depicted a middle-aged man. Their clothing was ancient, simple long robes. 3 wore crowns. 2 had long hair draped over shoulders. 1 was completely bald. They exuded imposing power. Each seemed to represent a powerful Tao demonstrating a heaven and earth path. Anyone seeing them would be stunned, filled with ancient glory. All knelt on one knee, both arms stretched upward, heads bowed. Objects lay in their upstretched hands. A wheel-shaped treasure, an extraordinary sword, a glowing jade bottle. Each statue held a different treasure. Glowing afterimages flickered. All gasped. 1 statue held 2 ancient scrolls. Its features resembled Hanbei. A gigantic crack ran down its back, obviously rent by heaven's lightning. Years had passed since then. But there was more. The center of the 9 statues held what they all bowed toward, a bronze, circular cauldron. A voice sounded in Meng Hao's mind. Square without, circular within, a trend of the heavens. As a quick reference, here are the 2 types of Chinese ding cauldrons that are being talked about. Square cauldron, round cauldron. The character for cauldron ding is pretty cool. Looks just like a cauldron, Chinese letter. Chapter 160. No Meng and the 9 families. The outside was a square cauldron, inside a circular one. This circular cauldron was a heavenly trend. Meng Hao's mind buzzed. Having experienced the cauldron's world, he felt it contained something cosmic. 9 kneeling figures, 9 pinnacles of the heavens, the gray-robed man muttered, trembling. These figures aren't people, they refer to the will of the heavens. No, how's the cauldron reversed? It shouldn't be like this. The heavens are circular, the earth is square, ancient truth, a law established tens of thousands of years ago, a heaven and earth principle. The cauldron should be circular outside, square inside. That's correct. Then heaven is outside above, earth inside beneath. His body trembled harder. He couldn't comprehend this cauldron, square outside, circular inside. Su Yaodao stared blankly at the circular cauldron, eyes radiating astonishment. Impossible to tell what he thought. Zai Jai's eyes narrowed. Despite shock, he immediately produced a jade slip and inscribed everything. Hanbei seemed shocked too. She looked at the massive fissure on the statue's back. Then a brilliant glow appeared in her eyes, veneration for ancestors. "I understand," the gray-robed man said, voice quavering. "The heavens are circular, the earth is square. A circular cauldron outside becomes the heavens, the square one inside becomes earth. That accords with heaven's will, but this embodies evil, earth covering the heavens. This buries the heavens. So the circular cauldron is the heavens, the square is the earth. This place is a tomb. Sharp astonishment filled his voice. He stepped backward 3 times. He coughed up blood. His face was pale, eyes shining with astonishment. His hands flickered as if calculating, his voice growing louder. These 9 worshippers are definitely heaven's pinnacles, embodied in these statues, the legendary 9 mystical stars. They worship the cauldron, heavenly trends solidified, a bronze square cauldron with heaven's heart buried within. How daring, how grand, a tomb with heavens buried inside earth. Whose tomb, willing to face death to steal heaven's fortune? This is a coffin. The blessed land outside is the tomb. Put together, this place isn't blessed, it's cursed, a tomb of defiance against the heavens. His words chilled all who heard them. Zai Jai and Su Yaodao's expressions changed. Meng Hao took a deep breath to settle his nerves. The gray-robed man's words resonated, a sense of familiarity. Perhaps this really was a tomb. He remembered the vision outside the cauldron, the voice when lightning struck it. You won't let me take this cauldron, then I'll rest here forever waiting for your fall. He recalled the other archaic voice from within. You wish to replace the starry sky, cover my eyes with heaven's dome. The world tree wouldn't submit, it destroyed itself in the stars. My master sleeps, but can he exist under the same sky as Jai? Voice echoed, his heart raced. He thought of the spring and autumn tree 1. Chapter 109, The Legend of Doom, how the world tree destroyed itself rather than yield to the heavens. He remembered the ancient Doom clan's destruction too. Chapter 19 and Chapter 128, Li Dei's 6th Matrix and the Flag of 3 Streamers 3. Chapter 137, 10th Patriarch of the Wang clan in the Blood Immortal Mask, its character Jai. He remembered the Blood Immortal's requirement to refine the bloodline of Jai. Don't be alarmed, Hanbei said. Her clear voice echoed, all heard it clearly. I don't know if this place is a tomb, but as you see, the statue with scrolls is my ancestor. Heavenly thunder cracked it open. That's how the first volume of the Classic of Time emerged and was eventually acquired. She looked at them. Only these scriptures can be taken. All other statues are perfect and unharmed. I've attended secret meetings. Seeing my message means you're destined here. You all have reasons and backing. I'm aware and don't care who you represent. Her voice softened. I only hope that for the sake of the 9 mystical stars, you'll keep your promises. Right now we can only look. When we near the statues, I'll acquire the 2 scriptures. We'll copy them for everyone. My real purpose is to pay respects to my ancestor's statue. Her voice held strange power that made all calmer. The gray-robed man's complexion returned to normal. Meng Hao wondered if the man had purposefully said those crazy things. He was skeptical of, for the sake of the 9 mystical stars. It's not far, Hanbei continued. I need help from fellow Taoists Su and Sima. More lightning awaits, the path more difficult. Originally we shouldn't have had this chance. But when the first volume flew out, it carved a path. Inside will be much safer. The lightning will be weaker. There will be weak periods, short, only about an hour, enough to get through safely. I timed our mission for the lightning's weak period. Her gaze swept them, then looked up as if waiting. After 10 breaths, the lightning dimmed. Still dense, but pressure significantly less, not as fearsome as before. 1 hour of weak lightning. Fellow Taoist Su, fellow Taoist Sima, hurry. Her eyes shined as she lifted her right hand. Dark ancient jade flew out and hovered above them, pointing in a direction. Su Yaodao flew forward muttering. The gray-robed man seemed completely normal now and accompanied him. Late Foundation establishment power roiled out. He emanated wood-type chi, but then switched to dust-type chi that eclipsed it. A yellowish-brown glow rippled out as they walked. Both produced magical items. Hanbei took a deep breath and waved her hand. Her ancient time jade emitted brilliant glow. All proceeded cautiously. The reduced lightning allowed relatively quick flight. But closer to the statues, lightning grew denser. Rumbling booms filled the sky. Lightning crashed down near the group. Their hearts trembled. Su Yaodao and the gray-robed man proceeded with difficulty. Soon, cracks appeared on their treasures. Without hesitation, they produced more lightning-repelling items. Meng Hao's expression was unchanged. He said nothing and made no indication he'd help. He'd accomplished his task. They likely wouldn't ask for anything more. This place was dangerous, but they'd chosen to come and were well-equipped. Within Meng Hao's hand was the good luck charm, his hidden trick. Time passed, the group grew closer to the statues. Su Yaodao and the gray-robed man's faces became ashen. They were reaching their limit. Closer to the statues, lightning grew denser. They'd used multiple items and were coughing blood. They couldn't proceed. Suddenly, a bolt descended toward their group. Their faces flickered. Hanbei's ancient-time Jade emitted a bright shield. The bolt slammed into it, massive explosion. Hanbei coughed blood, as did all others. Electricity surrounded them, faces draining of color. Su Yaodao and the gray-robed man trembled. Lightning dissipated into sparks, all sighed with relief. Their faces were even more cautious. "Fellow Taoist Han," Su Yaodao said, staring at her. "Didn't you say lightning would weaken? Why was that bolt so powerful?" Meng Hao wiped blood from his mouth. His eyes shined. Lightning fragments within him were sucked by his flag. It seemed to be changing. Though injured-looking, after coughing blood he was fine, but he kept his face pale. Hanbei wiped blood from her mouth and replied coldly, "You all chose to come. You knew this place isn't for Foundation establishment cultivators. Without my understanding, this time Jade and other things we know, we wouldn't be here or in the cauldron. The lightning is currently weakened, but bolts that haven't weakened still fall." She turned to Zai Jai. "Elder brother Zai, you must act now. This location holds what the Black Civ sect seeks through the 100 Spirits Tower. They ignore us but keep guard outside. They don't dare enter. Only 9 great families' descendants can. The families declined in the southern domain can't match current clans, mostly mortals. Those who cultivate are herded by sects. We appear elegant but are livestock. You and I are simply curious tools to the Black Civ sect." Zai Jai was quiet, then smiled. "What curious me is that the 9 great families don't include Meng. Not one of these 9 statues resembles fellow Taoist Meng at all. So how did he enter here?" He gave Meng Hao a deeply meaningful look. This chapter was sponsored by Hein Audiobook. Chapter 161, Ultimate Vexation appears. It wasn't just Zai Jai whose attention turned to Meng Hao. Su Yaodao and the gray-robed cultivator also gave him deep, meaningful looks. His expression was calm, but understanding flashed through his mind. Now he knew why everyone had looked at him so strangely when they had entered the large cauldron. The 9 great names didn't include Meng, so once he entered, they must all have reached the conclusion that he was using an assumed name. Even he was a bit uncertain regarding this revelation. He looked through the sheets of lightning toward the 9 massive statues. Sure enough, among them were faces similar to Su Yaodao, the gray-robed cultivator, and even Zai Jai. These statues depicted their ancestors, from clans with surnames traced to ancient times, the so-called 9 great families. "Am I of the 9 great families?" Meng Hao asked himself. Moments later, a smile appeared on his face, although it was a bit cold. He was sure that he was not of the 9 great families. He had remembered how upon entering the enormous cauldron, the copper mirror had grown hot within the bag of the cosmos. But Meng Hao had also recalled how the mirror had grown hot during the secret meeting, when Hanbei had produced the information regarding the first volume of the Classic of Time. Hanbei must have prepared for this day for a long time, he thought. The information she sent wasn't restricted to late Foundation stage cultivators, but only to bloodline members of the 9 great families. With this scattered information, he concluded it must involve the copper mirror. What is this mirror? It agitates wild beast auras to explosion, has astonishing duplicative power, and helped me achieve my goals through underhanded means. Even though I'm not of the 9 great families, I was able to enter this place. Only a moment or two passed between Zai Jai's question and Meng Hao's response. "Whether or not the 9 great families include Meng, I don't know," he said coolly. "But the fact that I entered the cauldron and made it here raises a very important issue." Zai Jai's eyes flickered. Meng Hao's words served as defense, neither admission nor denial, yet somehow both. Zai Jai looked at him for a long moment. The response was clear. Meng Hao didn't know, but perhaps he was here because he was indeed of the 9 great families. "Fellow Taoist Meng has provided his answer," said Hanbei calmly. "Elder brother Zai, I know you have green cloaking pills the sect leader gave you for this place. No need to confirm or deny it." Zai Jai was quiet for a moment. He looked around at the lightning, his face somber. Then he slapped the top of his head and spit out a small green pill the size of a fingernail. Green chi erupted in all directions, and the lightning began to grow slightly transparent, cloaking them. The 5 of them continued onward several hundreds of meters, with Su Yaodao and the gray-robed cultivator taking the lead. 100 meters later, Zai Jai, his face grim, said, "I only have 3 green cloaking pills." He spat out another pill, and they raced forward amidst the indistinct lightning. With the power of the 2 green cloaking pills, they reached the 9 statues. The statues were awe-inspiring, as was the cauldron in their center, which seemed to contain the heavens itself. An ancient aura circled the area, brushing against their faces. They felt as if they had traveled back to a primordial time, sensing the boundlessness of that era. Hanbei was incapable of concealing the excitement within her eyes. She panted as she looked up at the statue of her ancestor. Next to her, Su Yaodao, the gray-cloaked man, and even Zai Jai stood by silently, all of them gazing at the statues of their respective ancestors. Meng Hao had no way to comprehend what was going through their minds. His face was the calmest of the bunch as he looked at the statues one by one. Finally, his gaze fell upon the circular cauldron that represented the heavens. Even as he looked at the cauldron, something in his peripheral vision caught his attention. Something was moving on one of the statues. Meng Hao's eyes immediately darted over and then opened wide. Upon the shoulder of the statue resembling the gray-cloaked cultivator, dust had fallen away to reveal something. It was square, gelatinous, and elastic like a slab of meat jelly, pure white, and the kind that most people's first instinct would be to eat. The object sat on the statue's shoulder, wriggling slightly, causing more dust to fall. Meng Hao stared, eyes wide, mouth agape. It seemed alive. Suddenly, it flew off the statue's shoulder onto its head, then leaped into the air. A crack appeared on the meat jelly's surface, opening into an enormous mouth. Instantly, the lightning crackled. 10 bolts fell directly onto the meat jelly. It chewed for a bit, then stopped, as if digesting the lightning. Meng Hao gaped as it dropped to the ground and hopped over to land on the circular cauldron. It remained there motionless. It wasn't just Meng Hao who saw this. The noise caused Hanbei and the others to look over. Hanbei's eyes narrowed, Zai Jai's widened. He gasped, and the two exchanged a shocked, knowing glance. "That's," the gray-robed cultivator suddenly said, "that must be what the Black Civ sect needs the 100 Spirits Tower for. They want to drag out ultimate vexation." A mysterious look appeared in his eyes, and magical symbols flashed within his pupils as he attempted to gain information, something specific to his eyes, not his cultivation base. Before Hanbei and Zai Jai could respond, the meat jelly jumped up. The face of an old man appeared on its surface, eyes closed. His nose twitched and his eyes opened, filled with frustration. The meat jelly flew up and shot toward the exit of the square cauldron, then stopped in midair as if hesitating. It floated there and consumed more lightning. Seeing this, the eyes of the 5 cultivators gleamed. "Why is this thing called ultimate vexation?" Meng Hao asked the gray-robed cultivator. "Even I don't know," he replied. "I've been unable to uncover information about its origin. The Black Civ sect has likely spent far more time researching it. All I know is that it has been called ultimate vexation as long as it has existed." "I don't care what that thing is called," said Su Yaodao. "Half an hour has passed. If fellow Taoist Han doesn't retrieve the rest of the Classic of Time soon, our whole trip will be a waste." Hanbei sat down cross-legged beneath the statue of her ancestor without a word. Her hands made incantation gestures, and her ancient jade emitted a greenish glow as it rotated around her. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he stepped closer. Everything around them was quiet. Only thunder roared out. Time passed, roughly 100 breaths. Hanbei's eyes opened, and incantation words floated from her mouth. Su Yaodao, the gray-robed cultivator, and Zai Jai stood around, vigilant. Hanbei's incantation ceased, and she spat blood onto the ancient jade. It emitted a blinding green light and flew toward the statue's hands. It didn't move fast, wobbling slightly as it moved. Blood drained from Hanbei's face as if she were losing control. As the jade neared the statue, the 2 scripture scrolls in the statue's hands began to glow. Cracks appeared, and a boom echoed out. 2 pieces of jade exploded from within. 2 pieces of jade flew away from the scrolls, whistling as they shot out. The jade pieces flew out, uncontrolled, shooting to leave the square cauldron. Before they could go far, the greenish glow from Hanbei's ancient jade grabbed them, as if they were all connected. They suddenly stopped in midair, shaking as if struggling. A loud buzzing sound emanated from them. Hanbei coughed up blood and immediately grew listless, exhaustion covering her face. Her ancient jade slipped out of her control and fell. The other 2 jade pieces flew off into the distance. It happened so fast there was no time to think. Su Yaodao's body shot up and flew toward one. The gray-robed man's eyes narrowed as a green beam of light shot from him toward the second piece. Zai Jai flew up toward the original jade, suspicion on his face. "No fighting, fellow Taoists," cried Hanbei. "Great tribulation will come on anyone not of my bloodline who touches those items. I have a method to bring together the 3 ancient pieces of jade." She coughed up some more blood. "I found a lot of different articles about various varieties of meat jelly. Here is one relatively general article. From what I understand, most meat jellies in China are made from pork. In any case, the ingredients of meat jellies are not very important to the story. Check out the picture to get an idea of what it's supposed to look like. At the end of this chapter, Jen challenges the audience to guess the meaning of the name Ultimate Vexation. Chapter 162, Crafty Schemes. Her words were meaningless. Su Yaodao increased his speed. Three people, three different directions. They flew forward, their lightning-repelling items glittering. Meng Hao also took action, but he didn't rush after the Jades. Instead, he headed toward Han Bei, who had lost control of her ancient Jade. Su Yaodao reached his Jade and flicked his sleeve, collecting it into his bag of holding without danger. Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist Han, I've retrieved the item for you. I'll keep it for now and give you a copy later. His laughter rang out as Zai Jai's eyes suddenly glittered. The same suspicions appeared on his face. But Han Bei wasn't faking. Anxiety and enmity marked her face after coughing up blood. Yet Su Yaodao had succeeded. Zai Jai seemed to no longer suspect anything. He increased his speed. A lightning bolt descended toward him. He spat out his third green cloaking pill. A boom sounded as it activated, concealing Zai Jai. He bit his tongue, spitting blood that turned into a mist, and his speed increased dramatically as he passed through it. In an instant, he reached the Jade and collected it into his bag of holding. Zai Jai glanced toward the gray-robed cultivator who rocketed forward pursuing the Jade with caution. Having seen their successes, he increased his speed and was almost in position. All eyes focused on him. Meng Hao watched him flick his sleeve. Suddenly, the lightning began to accumulate. In a blink, 10 bolts shot down. The gray-robed cultivator's treasure shattered. His face fell as he prepared to evade, but a thunderclap sounded. His body transformed into ash, even his bag of holding destroyed. Only the ancient Jade remained, floating undamaged beneath the lightning as ash and bone drifted down. Han Bei coughed up some more blood. Her face was pale, but she gritted her teeth and raised her trembling hands toward the drifting piece of Jade. It changed directions, shooting back toward Han Bei and Meng Hao, heading toward Meng Hao. "Fellow Taoist Meng, be careful," shouted Han Bei. Everything happened too quickly. Zai Jai's expression changed at the gray-robed cultivator's death. Horror flashed across Su Yaodao's face, but both were focused on the Jade descending toward them. The gray-robed cultivator's death seemed accidental, unrelated to the ancient Jade. The two flew forward. If Meng Hao interfered, they would destroy him together. But their speed was slower than his, and they would arrive a moment too late. Meng Hao shot forward, eyes glittering, a barely perceptible mocking smile on his face. The three of them closed in on the Jade. The meat jelly's closed eyes suddenly opened. It shot forward with indescribable speed and landed on Su Yaodao's head. Su Yaodao's body shook. "Fellow Taoist Zai, help me." Before Zai Jai could react, the meat jelly opened its mouth. Massive lightning bore down and entered it, and Su Yaodao's body became ash in the wind. He didn't even have time to scream. Zai Jai gasped and his face flickered. He stopped moving, heart pounding. His scalp went numb as he stared at the meat jelly. Without Su Yaodao and Zai Jai pursuing, the Jade reached Meng Hao. He chuckled, shooting forward, then moved out of its path. Now it headed toward Han Bei. She gaped in shock, as did Zai Jai, still reeling from the meat jelly. Meng Hao laughed, looking between them. "Your act could fool gray robes, but did you think you could fool me?" Ridicule gleamed in his eyes. He spit out the lightning flag, throwing the surrounding lightning into chaos. Hearing Meng Hao's words, Han Bei frowned and Zai Jai's eyes flashed. They said nothing. The meat jelly wasn't anticipated, so Su Yaodao died. An accident, not part of your plan. With him gone, your three-person plan cannot succeed. He smiled coldly. "I think you should allow me to take his place, assuming I wish to." The lightning flag sent out ripples, causing the lightning to roil violently. Not wanting to attract the meat jelly, he pulled it close and suppressed the rippling. An unsightly expression covered Zai Jai's face. Meng Hao's craftiness left him awestruck. During their entire journey, he had barely interacted with Han Bei and Su Yaodao. He'd assumed no one could connect them, yet Meng Hao had. "It was Su Yaodao's final words," said Han Bei with a slight smile. "Fellow Taoist Meng, you are very perceptive. I admire you for this." No anxiety marked her face. "It's true, only three can remain. I'll be honest, fellow Taoist. I've betrayed the Black Civ sect for this place. Originally, Zai Jai and I received authorization to come here. We never imagined Ultimate Vexation would be here, and we never predicted Su Yaodao would fall." She straightened her hair and smiled. She was clever, but Zai Jai couldn't compare. Han Bei lifted her hand and made a grasping motion. A blue streak shot toward her from where Su Yaodo had died. A gray streak appeared from where the gray-robed cultivator had fallen. They circled in the air. Hanbei opened her mouth and spit out a yellow strand. The three strands intertwined, emitting bright light. The yellow strand was from the Li woman, which Hanbei had retrieved after her death. In this place of treasures of the 9 great families, only the Han clan treasure can be retrieved. The rest remained sealed. We needed strands from 3 bloodlines and power from 3 people to open the true location of the Han clan's time-refining treasure. Now we must use Su Yaodo's strand. Brother Meng, she said earnestly, let's not dwell on what came before. If you agree, you can have your copy of the time-refining treasure. I'll swear an oath on my ancestors. She slapped her bag of holding to produce a feng shui compass and quickly erased its branding. This is my apology. The exit I spoke of earlier isn't really an exit, it will only return you here. This feng shui compass is a sect treasure that can get you out of this place, though it won't take you out of the blessed land, only out of the square cauldron. The compass floated to Meng Hao. He examined it expressionlessly, casting his spiritual sense into it. Then he exchanged a glance with Hanbei, their eyes glittering simultaneously. Zai Jai watched them, his face grim, and let out a cold snort. Meng Hao took the compass and examined it further with spiritual sense. After confirming it was a teleportation device, he nodded. Hanbei's smile grew more beautiful. She gave a slight bow, then looked at Zai Jai, who glared at Meng Hao without hiding his displeasure. He and Hanbei had been a couple for some time. Once their mission was complete, they were to return and be officially united. Hanbei took a deep breath and waved her hand. The 3 colored strands interlocked and flew out, growing longer and creating a complex pattern before shooting toward the statue's crack. Hanbei bit her tongue and spit blood. The strands turned bright red and streamed into the crack. The strands separated. Hanbei grabbed one, and the other 2 shot toward Meng Hao and Zai Jai. Meng Hao's eyes glittered as he grabbed his strand. The copper mirror grew hot within his bag of the cosmos. The objects held by the 9 statues are mere illusions. The true treasures are inside the cauldron. No one can take them, not even someone of the 9 bloodlines. But the Han ancestor's body was struck by tribulation lightning and cracked. Therefore, the time-refining treasure is the only one of the 9 that can be acquired. The only way to get it is to break open the cauldron. Our cultivation bases make that impossible. Brother Meng, Zai, dear, please bolster my bloodline's power. We'll use the ancestor statue to retrieve it. Her eyes glowed as she smiled at them.